Okay. All right.
40 days. They're all going to die. Look, let me tell you what will happen in the next 40 days. They're all going to die. Look, in the Poltavo region, the recruiting office, they've acknowledged for every 100 soldiers that have been mobilized and sent forward, 80 to 90 of them are finished, done. 80 to 90% of the Ukrainian troops that have been mobilized have been taken off the battlefield. If you're losing 9 out of 10 guys, you ain't doing too well.
So this week we all witnessed, and the week is only half over, President Biden and President Zelensky acting as we would expect them to act at the UN. Is this, these shows that they put on, likely to have any effect on the war, or is this just sort of international theater?
Well, it's not even international theater. This is theater for a domestic American audience. This is the preliminary act before Zelensky goes to Washington, D.C., where he's going to attempt to get Congress to continue funding this failed effort in Ukraine. When he spoke before the United Nations Security Council, I don't know if you saw the audience. There was nobody in the audience. Nobody cares.
I did see that. There was nobody there.
Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares. Look, Poland is walking away. Poland calls Ukraine a drowning victim. And they said, you have to be careful. You can't save a drowning victim. They'll drown you too. The best thing to do is to get away from them. Poland is distancing themselves from this. Germany not talking about ridiculous terms of negotiation that Russia has to retreat from territory. Germany's now saying this war can't be won. And in order to prevent NATO from being compelled to confront a victorious Russia, we need to start recognizing certain realities, like Russia's going to have this territory and Ukraine's never going to be a member of NATO. This is the fact. Europe has woken up to the absolute reality that Ukraine has lost this conflict, cannot win this conflict, and the consequences of seeking to continue this conflict under these existing circumstances will be disastrous. It's only the United States, or should I say the Biden administration, that continues to hold on to these this fantasy.
If Europe has awakened to the reality of Russian victory and Ukraine defeat, is it still sending arms or promising to send arms and other support to Ukraine?
Well, they are. I mean, but let's talk about some of the arms that are being sent right now. The Nordic countries, Denmark, etc., have just sent a shipment of old Leopard 1 tanks. These are the really old tanks. And Ukraine, who's in desperate need of this equipment, has sent, I believe, at least 10 of them back saying, they don't work. This is garbage. This is junk. The fact is, what Europe is providing Ukraine isn't going to help Ukraine win. This isn't new modern equipment. This is just going through the motions of being seen as supporting Ukraine when everybody knows that this is a failed effort. Ukraine is a failed state with an army that can't prevail on the battlefield.
How about Germany? Are they still sending Leopard tanks?
Germany is sending old refurbished Leopard tanks. But again, these tanks have proven that they have no meaningful impact on the battlefield. One weapon that Germany could provide that wouldn't turn the tables, but would give Russia some headaches is the Taurus air-launched cruise missile. It is a modern weapon, and it would take some time for Russia to adapt to the inclusion of this weapon. And Ukraine is putting a lot of pressure on Germany to provide that weapon. But I think there's a growing recognition in Germany that this would be needlessly escalatory. It wouldn't change the final outcome, and it could put Germany and NATO at risk of causing a Russian response that nobody wants.
We have a number of clips of President Zelensky at the UN earlier today, but this one that we're going to run now is somewhat incendiary because of his argument that the Kremlin is weaponizing energy. And then at the end, he uses two words that to the public are a little terrifying, but I'm sure you can explain them. You'll hear him say them at the very end: dirty bombs. Listen to that.
Many times the world has witnessed Russia using energy as a weapon. Kremlin weaponized oil and gas to weaken the leaders of other countries when they came to the Red Square. And now this threat is even greater. Russia is weaponizing nuclear energy. Not only it is spreading its unreliable nuclear power plant construction technologies, but it is also turning other countries' power plants into real dirty bombs.
So what is he talking about? Turning other countries' nuclear power plants into dirty bombs?
Well, I mean, first of all, the first thing he's talking about is Russia's continued occupation of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and the contention on the part of Ukraine that Russia is not operating its plant safely, and therefore there's the potential of a malfunction, an accident that would lead to a Chernobyl-type event. Of course, the International Atomic Energy Agency has experts on the scene. Rosatom, the Russian Atomic Energy Agency, is one of the best in the world. They built this this particular reactor back when it was a Soviet reactor. It's
is what's been happening in the war in Ukraine. And we're going to be looking more deeply here in a second. So Ukraine is surrendering. I mean, that is the word. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are laying down their weapons and surrendering to Russian troops. This is amazing, right? This is a story the Western media does not want you to see. Over the past few weeks, we've been tracking countless reports of Ukrainian men surrendering before they are to be killed. So you're going to see, like, take a look at your screen here. So these are night vision scenes in Ukraine, night vision capturing many of the moments as Russian forces surround these targets. There they are in the brush. You can see them coming out of the brush, and they're making announcements. Come out, live, or you will be killed. Thankfully, these men are coming out and they are surrendering. Just look at the screen. They're waving the white. Anything you have white that you can wave in your hands right now, please do it. And we will make sure that you are safe, you are taken care of. How many of you are there? Tell us how many of you there are. Don't lie to us. Come out, lay down your weapons, and you will not be hurt. You will not be killed.
Now, we have brought you reports that Russia has been dropping pamphlets to tell them exactly how to surrender so that they don't get hurt. We also know that from NATO reports, from leaked documents, that if they surrender as a unit, they cannot be prosecuted for desertion. So that's why we see them coached with almost identical language. As they get in a room, they say, we are all together. They explain that we are command that has been left without weapons, without any training, and we're stranded here and we surrender. There's a formula to this, and we've seen it over and over again. You wouldn't see it if you're only watching CNN, but we've shown it to you.
Oh, no, the Western media is not going to show you this story. I guarantee you're not going to see this story on the front pages of the BBC tomorrow, CNN, the New York Times, or other places. You're not going to see reports of the thousands who have been laying down their weapons over the past few days. And here is Robottino and another surrender that's happening. You can see them coming out of the brush, nighttime, night vision goggles. Again, I mean, they literally could be mowed down at a second's notice, and they're being given refuge. Drop your weapons, lay down your Western weapons, lay down on your face, make sure that you're not having any grenades, and tell us where you're coming from. Is there anyone else left in your, in your troop? If there is, call them out. and we will check you to make sure that there's no other explosives on you. And then you will be given shelter, you will be given food, and you will be given medical attention.
But here are some of the 5 points that were published in Jacques Baud, the NATO specialist's book. He says, here are the ways that you surrender safely. This is what Russia is telling Ukraine. Abandon your position and leave the combat zone. Isolate nationalists and SBU, I guess, snitches, for lack of a better word. Record a video message to your command. Say that you've been abandoned by your commanders. And it says, be careful not to cross paths with nationalists whose task is to prevent you from surrendering or backing down by executing you.
Well, we've shown you videos here on the show, and we've been demonetized for showing it. But where you have the nationalists, you have Azov leaders basically shooting and executing Ukrainian soldiers who say that they don't want to fight anymore, so they're being shot. We've shown you those videos here, and that's absolutely what's been happening. And those who have managed to escape have told those stories about what has been happening. We showed you one horrible video where, yes, a commander or somebody ended up pulling a grenade and throwing it right into the room where these defectors were held up. So this afternoon, of course, here's the report. And we'll just go through this article in more detail here on exactly the numbers here, saying, and this is the Gateway Pundit, Better Call Volga, 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers surrendering as a result of this Volga radio frequency. 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers have surrendered to the Russians using a special 1.49.200 Volga radio frequency, which has been operating since mid-summer. So this is a radio frequency, and you can see it here spray painted on walls all over the place, inside of buildings. Surrender. Use this radio frequency only if you plan to surrender. Let us know your position, and then you will be taken into custody. You will be provided with all necessary medical care, and you will be fed and given food. And of course, this is all coming right now as winter is setting in and getting very, very close to inclement weather arriving within the next 30 days. And so we know what's coming. These poor men who have been dragged into NATO's war, sitting in trenches, freezing to death with no food. I mean, we saw it last year, for crying out loud. Now imagine a year later.
We saw it in May of 2022 in Mariupol, when many units of the Ukrainian army just surrendered and refused to fight. So that did not get better. And so many of them were dragged against their will anyways, but the will continues to mount as they realize this is a losing battle. I'm not going to die for this.
So here's a new video again. These are, I could show you 100 videos. I'm just choosing to show you a few here that came in this afternoon. And here is one from another group of soldiers who used the Volga frequency. They dialed in and said, okay, we're done. We're done. We surrender. And then, of course, you can hear the Russian soldiers asking, how many of you are there? Where are you? Get down on the ground and you will live. Here, watch. Asking, what is your unit number? Who are you? Be honest. Tell us who you are. So come out, put your heads down, hands up, drop your weapons, drop your Western weapons, your U.S. weapons, lay down. The amount of images we've seen over the past few days of all these weapons, these Western weapons, is amazing. Yeah, where are you from? What Western weapons are being used in this? Think about it. Your American tax dollars piling up. Here are just a few of the captured weapons over the past 24 hours. So you can just see, Western weapons lined up there, ready to go after full stocks of ammo and everything else that won't be used to kill people. But it's your American tax dollars hard at work right there, captured. So you want to send more armored vehicles? You want to send more, Abrams tanks? As Russia has said, you want to send more of these Leopard tanks, Abrams tanks. The moment they arrive, they will be destroyed. So American tax dollars, you want to send it? We'll destroy it. These men can survive if they come out and lay down their weapons and end this craziness and stop being thrown into the meat grinder. And surrendering these forces, of course, providing vital details to the Russian army, by the way. So as these men have been captured, they've been telling where their positions are. Here's just one example. A Ukrainian officer who voluntarily surrendered yesterday gave Russian military secret information about spotters of the Ukraine armed forces and asked specifically where they are. He's then given food because he hasn't had food. So here he is telling where they've been located.
Еще раз представься.
Капитан, командир роты стрелкового батальона отдельного стрелкового бригады вооруженных сил Украины.
Как попал в плен?
Добровольно решил сдаться, добирался до вас 2 суток.
Понятно. Что за трофейчик ты нам принес?
Телефон, содержащий данные
Oh,
по офицерскому составу, по
Так.
основным руководящим лицам на южном направлении.
Показывай. Куда?
Папка на рабочем столе, она единственная.
Вот это?
Документы, так точно.
Дальше.
Здесь в хранилище документов, назад хранилище документов. Здесь надо, где основные, нажать, чтобы отобразились все папки, в том числе и скрытые. Нажимайте основные.
Сюда?
Так точно, да, нажимайте.
Дальше.
Все. Здесь
Дальше.
папка request.
So if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast,
Здесь стоит
he's looking at a folder,
И вот
with-
пошли
Это
документы.
что у нас?
his units positions,
Это 10-й
and the 10th Army Corps position containing all of its commanding officers' positions and data on it that he provided.
Фамилия, имя,
upon his surrender,
отчество,
all of the positions.
вид деятельности.
The position, the type of activity they're carrying out. Guys, like,
and what he said
This is
was, I
over.
voluntarily surrendered, and it took me 2 days to get here.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what a terrifying 2 days that was. That is like the stuff of a Netflix movie,
yeah.
right? And we're
Well-
pretending like it's not real.
Well, do you remember a few weeks ago we showed it here on the show, which was the video that Russia released, and it was propaganda by all accounts, but it was a Russian piece of propaganda that said you have a choice, and it showed a Ukrainian soldier running and getting shot in the head, and said you have a choice. You can either die like this or you can surrender. Are you sick and tired of dressing up as a woman to escape, trying to hide? Your family can't bribe officers to get you out of this war. You have a choice. Just put up your arms and surrender. So they put out this video, they put out this radio frequency, and tens of thousands of Ukrainians are taking them up on it. Now, of course, you're not going to see this in the Western media, and they're not going to share this with you because it would undermine the NATO message of wanting to prolong this war, to throw more Ukrainian men into the meat grinder. And right now, of course, Ukraine is out of men. So they've launched now the full process as we head into the winter of launching campaigns to conscript women. So the campaigns for bringing women into the front lines is the next big phase of this. So enough is enough. Again, the Hill even Western media knows that we are heading into the winter. Here's the Hill. Clock ticks in Ukraine's offensive as bad weather approaches. And by the way, what is Zelensky doing in all of this right now? Pissing off India, pissing off Poland, pissing off NATO. I don't know, asking NATO for more weapons, more money.
Pretending he was never in Canada.
Yeah, pretending he was never there. No journalists, as Max Blumenthal earlier today tweeted, there's over 100 hack journalists that are in Kiev right now, Western-backed hack journalists, that none of them will ask the question of Zelensky, like this Nazi, literally right there, this Ukrainian Nazi in parliament. Anything to say on that? No, silence. No Western journalists will ask them that, will ask the regime that. So what is Zelensky doing right now? Well, he's meeting with Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO. He's, of course, asking for more money and more weapons. Watch.
Реальність є доказом, що членство України в Альянсі буде абсолютно природнім і таким, що посилює і Україну, і НАТО. Сьогодні ми обговорили з паном генеральним секретарем всі ключові оборонні питання, які потребують уваги, реальну ситуацію.
I don't understand how that calculation works.
Well, of course, they haven't added them to NATO yet. Is this going to be the moment now when you're seeing all of these Ukrainian
Mamadi Doumbouya, president of Guinea in Africa, just made one of the most eloquent speeches I ever heard. What's going on? Why the revolution in Africa? Why is this happening all over Africa? It's a revolution, unlike we've never seen. The West has never seen anything like this. And grab a drink. Tell me what you think about this speech that this president has just given on Africa. to me, it's one of the greatest speeches ever written, ever spoken. Cuts between the chases, just straight to the point. And I hope all the world leaders are watching this. I hope everybody in the world, everybody needs to see this video, or at least see this speech. It doesn't have to be this video in particular. I'm sure it's going to be on other channels, but appreciate it if you watch it with me. And I love you guys. America's with you. And everything he says, I am with it 100%. Americans are standing by you 100% with this. We agree. Can't speak for all of them, but I can pretty much say a majority, vast majority of anybody in the world agrees. Let's listen.
We, Africans, are insulted by the boxes, the categories, which sometimes place us under the influence of the Americans, sometimes under that of the British, sometimes the French, Chinese, or the Russians, and even the Turks. We are neither pro nor anti-American. We are neither pro nor anti-Chinese, nor pro or anti-French, nor pro or anti-Russian, nor pro or anti-Turkish. We are simply pro-African, that's all. Placing us under the influence of this or that power is an insult. It is contempt and racism towards a continent of more than 1,300,000,000 people. It is important that in this prestigious and influential assembly, we understand clearly, definitively, that the era of the old Africa is over. With a population of more than 1 billion Africans, around 70% of whom are young people who are completely free, open-minded, open to the world, and determined to take their destiny into their own hands. The time has come to realize that the structures, the rules from the post-war era, established in the absence of our states, which did not yet exist at the time, are obsolete. This is the end of an unbalanced and unjust era where we had no say in the matter. Africa, ladies and gentlemen, is suffering from a governance model that has been imposed on it. A model that is certainly good and effective for the West, which developed it over the course of its history, but which is difficult to incorporate and adapt to our realities, our customs, our environment. Alas, I have to say that the graft did not take. I know that when I say this, many will immediately say to themselves, oh, another warmonger who wants to wring the neck of democracy, or another soldier who wants to impose his dictatorship. However, I want to say very clearly, without hypocrisy, without pretense, eye to eye, we're all aware that this democratic model that you have so insidiously, skillfully imposed on us after the La Baule summit in France, something you've been imposing almost religiously. This model does not work. Various economic and social indices demonstrate this plain and clear. This is not a value judgment on democracy itself. Believe me, this is just taking stock of the situation. It's a balance sheet. Over several decades of chaotic experimentation with this model in our environment, we can make this observation. This was a period full of nothing but political games. And this, of course, has been to the detriment of what is essential, namely the economy and the local processing of our natural resources. Allow me to take this truth exercise a little further. Through my short but very intense experience of managing a state, Guinea, I have come to better understand the extent to which this model has, above all, contributed to maintaining a system of exploitation and plunder of our resources by others, and a rampant corruption of our elites. National leaders who have often been granted democratic labels based on their acquiescence or their capacity for selling off the resources and the property of their people, or perhaps their ease in giving in to the pseudo recommendations and injunctions of the great powers. I must confess in this regard that everything that I am facing was beyond all imagination. These are the same people who profess democracy, transparency, who denounce poor governance and corruption, who dictate the rules. It is they who, behind the scenes, very discreetly and underhandedly, are increasing pressure to make us cede our national wealth through unconscionable leonine contracts. I understand certain leaders and some of my predecessors who, because they possess certain weaknesses, because they were under pressure, or because they had skeletons in their closets, or particularly because they had a political agenda, gave in to what was being asked of them. I understand them, even if I do not approve. In some cases, I was even reminded that if I had a political agenda, I would be less comfortable carrying out the reforms that my government and I are tackling. One thing is certain. We have but one concern, and that is the well-being of the people and living together. It is time to take our rights into account and to let us take our proper place. But also, and above all, it is time to stop lecturing us and to stop treating us with condescension like children. Rest assured that we're old enough to know what is good for us. We are mature enough to define our priorities, to design our own models, which are in line with our identity, the daily reality of our countries and our populations, in line with what we are, quite simply. We would be very grateful to you if you trust us and let us run our business as you have allowed in certain regions of the world, as you have allowed in Asia, in the Near and the Middle East, to cite only a few. This infantilization that we have experienced has had the worst effects on African youth who are now emancipated. In this context, we are all challenged and called upon to carry out a better analysis of the situation with a view to initiating and pursuing new policies for the benefit of all. The international community must look to Africa with new eyes. It must now engage in genuine cooperation with Africa in a spirit of win-win partnership. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
That was amazing. That was amazing. Nailed it. Hit it out of the park. Let me know what you think.
All right. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the WCC channel aspect of the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series every Sunday at 1 p.m. Of course, I am your host, Frank Mauba. Revolutionary 2, welcome this afternoon. On Lee, welcome this afternoon, and welcome to you all that are watching and to you all that will watch the recording. Now, I decided to start the show with this speech of the Guinean president. Like I said, I'm not going to call them. I can only call where's the country? Gabon. I can only call the Gabon president a joint tie because the Gabonese president is not a revolutionary president. Okay, there was something planned, which of course we all know. We have talked about it. So I will call him a joint tie government of Gabon. But as far as we are concerned as a revolutionary or a Pan-Africanist, we refer to the Malian government not as joint tie, but the authority or the government of Mali. We don't care what the United States, or we don't care what UK, some country on our side. We don't care what France, some country. We don't care what the United States says, some country. We don't care. All right? We call those people the government of the people. We call the Guinean government the government of the people. We call the Nigerian government the government of the people. The Malian government the government of the people. And then we can call the Nigerian government the government of America, the government of UK, the government of France. And we can call the Ghanaian government or the Senegalese government the government of America, the government of France, the government of UK, but not the government of the African people. Now, there's a reason why I chose this video to start with it, all right? So, from this whole UN summit that just passed, there were only 2 speeches that came out to be great. I repeat, there was only 2 speeches that came out to be great. And this speech by the Guinean government was one. And the best one, I am here to show it, the best one that stood up among all the speeches. Even the United States government, Joe Biden's speech was a trash. The UK Prime Minister speech, trash. France speech, trash. Ghana speech, trash. Kenyan speech, trash. Now, somebody may say the Ghanaians spoke about reparation, right? Nana Akufo-Addo spoke about reparation, right? Like I said, this is a revelational repatriation educational lecture series channel. We look into your eyes, we see if you are speaking the truth. Even your lip, even your teeth can tell if you are speaking the truth. And this is a generation, a revolutionary generation that understands. So Nana Akufo-Addo's speech at a UN summit was a trash just because he says something. Oh, you know, it is time for reparation to be given. It is time for this. And I'm seeing that speech fluctuating on the internet. Oh, Nana Akufo-Addo spoke about reparation. Very good. It's not a bad thing to speak about reparation. It's good. But let me tell you what Nana Akufo-Addo spoke about reparation. First of all, how are you going to speak about reparation? All right? How are you going to speak about reparation? But yet and still you are Danny and Wani with the same people that need to pay reparation. How are you going to speak about reparation when you are not a revolutionary? How are you going to speak about reparation when you are not a true Pan-Africanist? How are you going to speak about reparation when you don't stand for the principle of reparation? You stay Danny and Wani with the colonizer, the enslaver. How dare you speak about reparation when you don't stand the principle of reparation? When you don't define the principle of reparation? When you don't mean what you say about reparation? How can you speak about reparation but you take order from the United States and UK and France to go win war on Niger, to go kill African? Double standard. You're speaking of the ill in society that the United States caused, that France caused, that UK caused. But yet they stay, you are taking all from them to carry on the same chaos, the same calamity, the same destruction that they caused. How can that be? How can that be? The same oppressive behavior, okay? The same slavery mentality that they did to African. And they ask you to go to another African country, to go enslave them, to go kill them, to go step on them, to go oppress them. And then come by and go to the United Nations and asking that the same people should pay reparation when you are taking all from them to treat Africans. Nana Akufo-Addo, how can that be? But let me tell you why you are asking for reparation, not from a heart. The reason why he was asking, you know, he's paving the way for his successor for 2024 election. Because he wants to get the African who have left the so-called United States to Ghana to get his vote. He's paving the way for his successor for the Africans to vote for him, or to vote for his successor, or to vote for his party. You know, the same thing Tinubu, the same thing Buhari did, paved the way for Tinubu. The same thing Buhari did paved the way for Tinubu to protect Western interests, to protect the imperialist interests. Tinubu did it. He paved the way Buhari did it, paved the way for Tinubu, and then Tinubu came, they just put in power. That's the same thing. But he's not speaking in line. He's lying to us because even America herself knows that Nana Akufo-Addo is lying. They knew he was lying. Let me tell you something. Do you know the new policy that is about to go on the African continent? Do you know how they treat Black America when it comes to the so-called Democratic or the so-called Democrat? Time for election, that's the time they identify African issue. But after election, the same people would then say, I did not become president for Black America. Biden said it, Barack Obama said it, Kamala Harris said it, all of them, they said it. But election time, they come and speak all the sweet things. And after the election, the same people go and say, I did not become president for Black America. But they can become president for non-Black America. Put in policy for those people. But when it comes to Black America, to put in policy for Black America, then they say, no, I did not become president for Black America. I became president for the United States. That sickness will not be taken to Africa. That sickness will not be taken to Africa because it is a sickness that has no cure unless the people rise up. So Nana Akufo-Addo, you are a bloody liar to say you are speaking for reparation. Not that we don't want for Africa to speak for reparation. But how can you speak for reparation when you are not united? How can you speak for reparation when you are not united? This is what the hypocrisy of the United States coming. Now, that we see the United States go and kill Nana Akufo-Addo because he's speaking as an individual. That's how they killed Gaddafi when Gaddafi stood as an individual. But they knew Gaddafi was speaking and doing things from his heart because he was not listening to the colonizer or the colonialist. He was spending his own money in AU and spending and educating African people. He was not lying. So they take it out. But if Nana Akufo-Addo is truly speaking for Africans, you will see the United States will go after him. But the United States know that Nana Akufo-Addo is a puppet. He was just speaking because Nana Akufo-Addo is known of speaking words. But he lied. You cannot be fighting for reparation and you are not united. You are not coming to the UN as one. The Kenyan president, the same thing. We thought he was a good person. We thought he was a good Pan-Africanist. But he stood out over there talking about Haiti. Not that we don't want peace in Haiti, but just Kenya alone, you cannot do it. You don't have weapon for it. You don't have the manpower. But what he said, I am going to fight alongside with the United States to go in Haiti to go for peace. Are you serious? Are you serious? Do you think the United States want peace in Haiti? And indeed they want peace. As indeed America want peace in Haiti. You don't even have to Kenya. You don't even have to join the United States. The United States does not need any nation to carry peace in Haiti. If actually the United States want to carry peace in Haiti, the United States can do it without the help of any nation. What power do you have to collaborate with the United States to carry peace in Haiti? What's the power do you have? What a manpower you got? What a weapon you got? What a sophisticated material you got that the United States does not have? What a technology you have that the United States does not have? U.S. does not need any nation to take peace to Haiti. No nation. So how can you, Kenya, come out without Ruto, come out? We carry peace in Haiti. They see Haiti that said they don't want the U.S. They see Haiti that said they don't want Canada. They see Haiti that said they don't want UK. I thought you are going in Haiti as an African body for peace. I thought you are going Haiti as AU. But how can you go in Haiti by yourself? By yourself. How? Where is the support of the African continent? Are you guys coordinating? The war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine. Did you not see the entire Europe? Did you not see the entire Europe? Did you see one European nation that said, this person should go? Did you not see the entire Europe along with the United States fighting Russia? This is why we know that you African leaders are liars. This is why we know that you African leaders are not yet ready. You are not yet ready. Not that we don't want peace in Haiti. We want peace in Haiti. But you got war in your backyard. You have not yet settled it. You got issues in your backyard. You have not yet settled it. Not that we don't want our brothers and sisters in Haiti to be free. But the peace you're talking about in Haiti is not peace. Because at the end of the day, who the United States going to control in Haiti? Is it you, Kenya, that are going to conduct election? Is it you, Kenya, that are going to put, how to call it, president in Haiti? You, Kenya? Or because the United States want to use you as a blackface to put their government in power, to run their country or to run their interests in Haiti? So they want to use you because they have tried by all means, even to the UN, for UN to go there, and the Haitians said no. So they got to use another black man. Because there's no black man in US that they can use. There's no black man in UK that they can use. There's no black man in France that they can use. There's no black man in Canada that they can use. So they have to go to the African continent. They are trying their way, they are maneuvering their way. But most of our African leaders, most of them, still have that slavery mentality. Without the colonial master, no, we cannot move. We cannot survive without a colonial master. That's the kind of mindset they have. No, we cannot integrate without a colonial master. No, we cannot separate. No, we should integrate within a system. The same mistake that the E.B. Du Bois made. We are still making that same mistake, but at the same time, we point fingers on W.E.B. Du Bois and say the main mistake. They were the cause. Africa did not unite. They were the cause. African people are like this. Oh, but we point fingers at those people, but yet they stay. We still doing the same thing. And then we will say, oh, you know what? Nkrumah was the best man. Nkrumah wanted one united Africa, but it was the Moravia group that did this, while the Casablanca group wanted this. But yet they stay. We continue to act like the Moravia group instead of the Casablanca group. But we will point fingers at the Moravia groups. We will say Margaret Garvey wanted one united Africa. We will say Margaret Garvey was the dream, or how to call it, his dream was to unite Africa. We will say, oh, Kwame Nkrumah learned the doctrine from Margaret Garvey. But yet they stay. We come by, we deviate from it and go back to the Moravia group. No, we cannot separate with our colonial master. We will not survive. The slavery mentality, the horse Negro. We will come and say the horse Negro were the problem because they did not want to leave their master. The horse Negro were the problem because they wanted to eat the crumbs of their master. They did not want to be part of the free Negro. But yet they stay. We will come and act like the horse, how they call it, Negro, instead of the free Negro. But we point fingers at those people. But yet they stay. The same finger we are pointing, and it look like us. We are still doing the same thing of the same people that we are pointing fingers to. How can you take peace to Haiti when the African continent is not united? Haiti want peace, but before Haiti can accept Africa, Haiti got to, look, Africa got to make sure you are united. And then Haiti will know that you are really coming for peace. Haiti will know that you are a forceful, how to call it, force to go in Haiti for peace. Haiti will know that you are only observe who they will put in power. Not by somebody coming and putting somebody in power through you. What can Kenya do in Haiti? Kenya. When you cannot defeat Boko Haram, you cannot defeat terrorists. You cannot mobilize army. You cannot mobilize Africa. Kenya. You have never even spoken of the issues of Niger that France, America, UK, they are doing You have never spoken against it. To say, I'm on the side of Niger. If ECOWAS dare try, no. But you want to wake up. And then come to the same people that said they should bomb Libya, Niger. The same people that said they should kill Nigerian. You want to come with them to go carry peace where? Who believe that? Your house is on fire. And then you are leaving your house, going to another person's house. Not to say the people of Haiti, we are not part of that house. But understand the scenario here. Your house is burning, and you live in it, run into another house to go cut that fire off. Who want to believe that you are actually going to cut off fire? No, you are going to mock that person. United States does not need any African nation to take peace in Haiti. If indeed the United States is truthful to her word, if indeed the United States is a nation of peace, because she got everything it takes for peace in Haiti, she does not need anybody. That let it be known. So the speech of Kenya, William Ruto, the Kenyan president, was trash. The speech of Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana was a trash, because he's paving the way for his successor. But behind the scene, they are working with the US, UK, Canada, and France to get their support to put his successor in power, their political party in power to continue. In the minds of the people, Nana Akufo-Addo is saying the truth. What truth? You are dining and warning with the rapist, and then you are saying you are speaking for the victims. But overnight, you are in a club with the rapist, drinking, and the rapist is buying drinks. The rapist is buying your food. The rapist is paying your hotel bills, everything. The rapist is paying your Uber to go back and forth to your hotel, and then come by and tell the victim you are speaking for the victim, for the rapist to pay reparation to the victims. And then you meet the victim, you guys won and done together. Who believed that? If the Guinean president, if the Malian president, if the Burkinabe president can say these things, that you know what, we have to mobilize ourselves, go to Haiti, we will believe it. But how can you work alongside the colonizer who created the problem? How can you work alongside America, alongside Canada, alongside France, who went and killed in the people elected Democratic president? How can you work alongside them? Does that make sense? Hey, Jimmy Papa, does that make sense? You guys should start speaking speeches here, breaking worries. We are tired with worries. We are tired with great speeches. And by the way, that whole United Nations summit, there were only 2 speeches that came out to be great. But like I said, the United States, Joe Biden's speech was a trash. The UK Prime Minister's speech was a trash. All of them, Nana Akufo-Addo, Senegal, Africa, all of them, their speeches were all trash. The Guinean and the Burkina Faso, the representative that was there. And that will be the next speech we're going to talk about. Those are the only 2 greatest speeches at that United Nations summit. Other than that, every one of them, they all spoke trash. Because we don't see the work that they are doing. We don't see the work. We don't see them leading Africa as they speak. And if you speak and you can't lead as you speak for us to see, You are not a leader. Then everything you say, they are all trash. Now, listen to this here. You know, the colonizer, the United States, the colonizer, the UK, the colonizer, France, the imperialists, the America, the imperialists, UK, the imperialists, France, they always have their agenda, and they are calculative, and they are always ahead. Okay? Over the years, they have tried to send white supremacy to black nation, to the African continent. All right? And they know that white representation, Africans have come to realize that for each time a white representation come, or a white man come and speak to black people, we don't respect them again based on history. So now they are sending black people. They are sending black people. Even the United Nations now, in order to convince black people, they have to send black person. Even the United States Army, they have to send black person. Now why? So just as Nana Akufo-Addo is a slave, Senegal, slave, Africa, slave, all of them, right? Now, they sent another slave, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, another slave, to go and speak. Do you know what he said? Africa need more United States bases. Africa need more of United States bases in Africa. That's the piece. Do you know when Ebola was in Africa? When China was sending military, how they call it, medical doctor, when Cuba was sending medical doctor, the United States had a gust to send military to go shoot Ebola. Instead of them sending doctor, the United States had the audacity to send military, weapons, ammunition to go shoot Ebola. Instead of them sending doctors, they send military to shoot Ebola. So with all the issues on the African continent, America is saying the only solution to Africa, the only freedom to Africa is for America to have more bases. What bases on the African continent have to do with the poverty, the level of poverty in Africa? Bases, military bases. What it got to do with it? Sanitation issue. What military got to do with it? Education. What military got to do with it? Technology. What military got to do with it? And the list goes on. What military got to do with these things? But instead, America is angry with nations that are bringing technology. America is angry with nations or with people or with entities in Africa who are bringing the idea of eliminating hunger. America is angry with those people. America is angry with people who are coming to build infrastructure, to create jobs, to build infrastructure where we will be able to manufacture our own raw material. America is angry with those people. But rather, America is saying Africa needs more bases to put fear in African people, to be afraid of the United States. For the United States to take advantage of African people, they need more bases. So that in the morning, they will turn their weapons, their bazooka, their how they call it, their sophisticated weapon on us. That if we react, this is what's going to come after you. So America needs more bases in order to threaten African people with their weapons. Because not the jihadi, not the terrorists, because America, as far as we are concerned, America has built 110 million drum powerhouse in Africa. But yet they stay, the terrorists are killing Africans. You spend millions of dollars to build base in Africa. millions of dollars to have sophisticated base in Africa, but African people are still dying. And then you are saying you still need more bases. Let me show you the video exactly what I'm talking about, right? And then you see what exactly Nana Akufo-Addo and William Ruto also fall in line with it.
News. The United States Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin addressed U.S.-Africa relations in a press conference held in Angola on Wednesday. Africa deserves better than outsiders trying to tighten their grip on this continent, he said during his visit to the continent. He is here to try to enhance U.S.-Africa military cooperation, meaning more American military bases in Africa. Listen to what he had to say.
Also here to underscore an important point, and that is that Africa matters. It matters profoundly to the shape of the 21st century world, and it matters for our common prosperity and our shared security. And Africa also matters deeply to the United States and to my boss, President Biden. And I can tell you firsthand that the president believes that Africa's success is crucial to all of our futures. The United States is deeply committed to making sure that Africa enjoys all of the protections of the international rules and norms that advance security and prosperity. You know, other countries may see African countries as proxies or even pawns, but we see African nations as partners. The Biden administration believes that the future is being written today in Africa. And we want to move forward together through growing partnerships rooted in mutual cooperation and mutual respect. Our military cooperation with our African partners today is far stronger than it was just a few years ago. We're working to deepen defense relationships that are rooted in equality and mutual respect. We're joining hands with new partners and building new coalitions to oppose aggression and uphold sovereignty. And we're empowering our partners to pursue locally, nationally, and regionally led solutions to the dangers that they face. These threats include violent extremism, piracy, cyber vulnerabilities, and climate disasters, all too often made worse by weak governance and predatory institutions and persistent poverty. So we're determined to work with our valued African partners to develop the capabilities that they need to keep their people safe. So our outstanding U.S. Africa Command, led by General Michael Langley, provides a range of support to our partners in Africa. And that includes professional military education, capacity building, counterterrorism, logistics, and much, much more. You see, Africa deserves better than outsiders trying to tighten their grip on this continent. Africa deserves better than autocrats selling cheap guns and pushing mercenary forces like the Wagner Group or depriving grain from hungry people around the world.
Austin is on his first official tour to Africa.
Now, let me address this idiot called Austin. Let me address this slave called Austin. Now, he said a few things in here. Exactly, that is what America, UK, and France do to Africa. He said other people see Africa as pawn. Who have seen Africa as pawn other than America? Who have seen Africa as pawn other than UK, Europe? Who has seen Africa as spawn other than France? We are not just talking here. America see Africa as spawn. That's why America have been training people to go remove democratically elected African president. And that's the behavior of America, because America see Africa as a pawn. Now he said other country hold grip, other nation hold grip on Africa. Who have been doing it? Not Russia, not China, not India. Even though those people, they still need their interest. But I mean, when he said great, who have been doing it other than the US, other than UK or Europe or France? Who put sanction on African nation when African nation do not agree to their policy? When African nation do not agree to their selfish interests, who put sanction on African nation? Who use their currency to step on African people's neck? Who use their currency to step on African people's neck, to insult African people? Who said African were shithole? Who said African were insignificant? They are all United States president. To be specific, how they call it, George Bush, Jr. And also Donald Trump. Now, just because other people are silent, that doesn't mean they were not in line of people who say African nation are shithole or African people are insignificant. Who put sanction on African nation? Who do not allow African people to speak on their concern? Who do not listen to African people? The United States, UK, Europe, France, they don't listen to the African people. Who decide what government is best for African people? United States, UK, France. Then how can you say other nations see Africa the whole grip and all that? Who have grip on Africa? Who pick African leaders? Who interfere with African elections? Who infiltrate African system? Who killed Gaddafi? Who killed Gaddafi? Lord, you slave, you idiots. Who killed Gaddafi? Did you kill Gaddafi for which you spoke about? Or you killed Gaddafi for which you never spoke about it, unspoken? Your selfish interests. Who killed Gaddafi? Who killed Patrick Lumumba? Who killed Thomas Sankara? Was it Russia? Was it China? No. It was the United States, France, UK, the NATO nations. Who put sanction on Zimbabwe and said because Mugabe was XYZ, Mugabe dead long time ago? What sanction is still on Zimbabwe? Who has sanction on Zimbabwe? America, UK, or Europe? Who got angry when Niger decided that, you know what, our people are suffering? How can we be the second poorest country, or how can we be the poorest country in the world, but with the vast majority of resources that we empower France, we empower UK, even that of America, but yet the state, our people barely have it to eat it. But you went against that government and said that government should be removed. In fact, what should go in Niger for removing a president that is a puppet to the US, when all Nigerians are saying that they did not want Bazoo, but you said they should reinstate Bazoo. Then how can you come and tell other nations having grip on Africa? Since your military, your Africa on the African continent, what result have it given to the African people? What positive result have it been given to the African people? Now, you say other nations sell cheap weapons, or other nations give cheap weapons. Oh, look. Hey, Africa, look. My blood is boiling because African leaders, some African leaders, man, they don't behave like Africans. How can you say other nations gave cheap weapons to Africa? What weapon have you given to Africans? What weapon have you given to Africa for Africa to fight the terrorists? Okay, other nation gave you weapon to Africa, that's good. But you gave sophisticated weapon to the terrorists. You gave modern weapon to the terrorists, to the jihadi, to fight the same African that you are speaking for. Oh yes, who gave weapon to the insurgency to go remove Gaddafi, to go fight against Gaddafi? Oh yes, who gave sophisticated weapons to Boko Haram, which was reported numerous times that France was supporting Boko Haram, that France was even giving, how they call it, Médecins Sans Frontières, not just weapons, as France military were giving weapons to Boko Haram, Médecins Sans Frontières, a French organization, were also serving as a medical entity to treat Boko Haram. Who gave weapons to people in DRC Congo? American weapons. The rebels, the terrorists in DRC Congo. Who gave them weapons? American weapons. Then how can you come and say they gave you weapons to Africans? Those people are doing well and they gave a cheap weapon to our military. But you are giving sophisticated weapon to the rebels, to the terrorists. And then got the guts to come and stand in front of us that Africa need more American bases. With the one that is there, the American bases that are there, what impact have they caused on the African people, on the African continent? Before we call for more, the one that is there, what impact have it caused to us that will encourage us to bring more bases? We don't want bases. You have seen recently what have been happening with the absence of even the United Nations in Mali, with the absence of foreign military in those places. It enables us to stand. You have seen how Guinea, how Mali, how Burkina Faso, Niger have collaborated to fight. Unity here is the key, not bases on the African continent. Not American bases who are doing nothing. Even in Europe now, in Europe, some European nations are fighting against U.S. military base or bases in Europe. And they are protesting against their government for the government to be removed because they are pro-Americans to have bases in their backyard. They are protesting against it. So just like the U.S. Secretary of Defense being a puppet, so as Nana Akufo-Addo, so as William Ruto, they just speak. But we thought those people actually meant what they said or what they be saying. But it is not the reality. They are all puppets. They are all slaves. For this U.S. Secretary of Defense to come and say, I'm here representing my boss. You know what that means? You are representing your slave master while you are a slave. Because indeed you know what you are doing. It is against people that look like you. It is against the African continent. It's oppressive. It's to dehumanize the same people that look like you. It's to look down on the same people that look like you. But 10 years from now, you'll be old. And they will have no time for you. And they will treat you just like this. But now they are using you. You are important. You are valuable to them. And that's how a slave is. And we say no to U.S. bases in Africa. And if we can say no to UN, then who is the United States that we can say no to? We are saying no to UN, then you're talking about to have more bases in Africa. We say UN should leave. And if US is leaving, oh yes, America too is leaving. We don't want American bases. Africans have the manpower. Africans have the youth to fight and defend the African continent and the African nations. That the Guinean president said. You are in Africa supporting the terrorists. What we are fighting against, it is the US that is causing it. It is France that is causing it. It is UK, Europe that is causing it. What we are fighting against, you are the one causing it. And then come and say other nation. And then you speak about the Wagner groups. Wait, let African people come and tell you the Wagner group are doing this, are raping people, are killing people. Not you, the ones you come and tell us, because you are the how do you call it, the one who has committed the worst atrocity in the world, the worst crime in the world. You are the criminals above all criminals. You are the criminals among all criminals. So how can the criminals come and speak for the victims when somebody on the other side is coming to help the victim, and then the criminal coming to tell the victim who is the criminal, who is the more criminal, who is the more demon or the more demonic being? How can the criminal come and tell the victims who is to come and save? You are a criminal, and then coming to tell the victim, I am the best option to come and free you. I am the best option to come and represent you. You are the criminal. How can you come and tell her you are the best option? Let we decide who is the best option. You are the criminal. How can you come and be the judge for me when you are the criminal? Let we decide who is to be the judge, not the criminal. Not the criminal should, how do you call it, suggest for the victim. Let the victim speak for herself, for himself, for themselves. Not the criminals should speak for the victim. You are a criminal. Don't speak for the victim. Come and say the Wagner group are doing this. What history of the Wagner group in Africa that is more exploitative than UN, than AFRICOM, than all the foreign military bases or troops in Africa? What have the Wagner group done that the United States Army in Africa have not done, that UN in Africa have not done? But to come and point fingers on others that you are the good one, when we know you are the bad, when we know you are the criminals. And then come and tell all the Wagner groups are exploiting Africa. The history of Russia, as we know, it have never been exploitative. The history of Russia, the history of Russian have been to fight against apartheid that America supported. How can a criminal come and tell us who is who? The same Russia fought against apartheid when South Africa was fighting against apartheid. When you, America, was arming the apartheid government to kill Africans, Russia was arming Africans to fight against the apartheid government. You were for apartheid, and Russia was against apartheid. Then how can you come and tell us the Russian are the devil or are the demon? Or the Russian are the bad option, but the criminals are the best option? That decision should be left with the African. Not America, not Europe, and not France. Because our history was caused by Europe, was caused by France, was caused by America. Our demise was caused by Europe, was caused by France, was caused by America. Our struggle was caused by France, was caused by Europe, was caused by America. Our circumstances, our situation, our systemic situation and circumstances was caused by America, was caused by France, was caused by Europe, not Russia, not China. In fact, the fact that we are even struggling to find a partner to come to the rescue caused by Europe and caused by America and caused by France. How dare you come and tell us who to partner with? Because our cry, our tears came about the inhuman behavior of America, the inhuman behavior of France, the inhuman behavior of Europe, our cries, our tears. Our discussion today on various platform to even say we are revolutionary, it came as a result of the inhuman behavior of America, Europe, and France. The days of Marco Garvey came not because of Russia, not because of China, but it came as a result of America. The struggle of W.E.B. Du Bois came as a result of America, Europe, France, not Russia, not China. For Kwame Nkrumah to say the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless all the entire African nation were free and independent. It came as a result, not Russia, not China. That statement came as a result of Europe, America, and France. So everything we speak, when we speak of freedom, when we speak of liberation, all point finger at America, Europe, not Russia, not China. And guess what? When we want to speak of Russia, we will always say Russia was there during independence. We will always say Russia supported us. Now, when we were fighting for independence, when Russia was supporting us, who did we fight against when we were fighting for independence? United States, Russia, United States and Europe. So everything we have fought for, it have always been fighting against America. It have always been fighting against Europe, not fighting against China, not fighting against Russia. Who killed Amilcar Cabral? Not Russia killed Amilcar Cabral, not France. Who plotted the assassination of Kwame Nkrumah? Was it Russia? Was it China? Or was America and Europe? Who killed Dr. King? Was it China? Was it Russia? Or America or Europe? Who Dr. King fought against? Was it Russia? Was it China? Or Dr. King fought against America? Who Malcolm X fought against? Was it Europe? Was it China? Or Malcolm X fought against America? Who called Malcolm X an extremist when he was fighting for freedom? Was it Russia? Was it China? Or was it America? So how then can you come and tell us who should be the judge? Who is the better person to partner with? Before China, who did we partner with? America, Europe. Before Russia, who did we partner with? America, Europe. Then what did you do? You took advantage of us. You enslaved us. You colonized us. You did not end there. You start killing all our democratic leaders. Who did it? Was it China that sent America to come and do it? Was it Russia that sent America or Europe to come and do those things? So when we say we don't need you, we're not speaking of hate. We are speaking based on history and based on current event that is still happening. Let's continue to the next topic. Now, let's get to Libya. Again, when you are saying all nations have grip on Africa that is not supposed to be, Africa should be left, let's go to Libya again. Another puppet like Obama, another slave like Obama. Who went and destroyed Libya? Who went and killed Gaddafi? Recently, Obama Clinton and NATO, they just killed another over 20,000 Libyans. Oh, yes. Libyan blood are still crying because of Obama action. Libya, look, Africa, we should be smart. Just because we see a black man on the African continent, that doesn't mean they are in our interest. Whether the person came from within in Africa or the person came from out of Africa. First, we should determine what we Africans want when somebody comes to speak to us. We should determine what we stand for when somebody comes to speak to us. We should understand their tone, their language, and what they are asking for. We should understand whenever they come to speak to us. Because the decision of Obama is still affecting Africans, is still affecting the Libyan. Because as we speak, America has one of the best democracies in Libya right now. The kind of democracy America wanted, Barack Obama wanted for Libyan, it is going on right now. The Western democracy. Which Africa today, the blood of Libyan are still crying, which are still on Obama's hands. The blood of Libyan are still floating on Obama's shoulder. They are still crying with Obama's name, and they will cry with Obama's name. So if Gaddafi were alive, the 20,000 plus victims that have died because of the flood, it wouldn't have happened. Because good system was going to be put in place. But America came and killed Gaddafi and put in her democratic system and put in her field system and started looting the people resources, the people oil, and now use the people resources, never use the people oil as to how Gaddafi used it to benefit the people. But America, Obama, Clinton, NATO, they use it to benefit their economy, their people, their pocket, their banks, their children. That affected Libya to have a poor system, where their system were not being properly managed. And that led to another 20,000 plus people to die because of the action and decision of Obama the slave. Another horse Negro. So let's see something here. Before we go on, let me take a break on this short video here. 1 minute break.
Only going over there for humanitarian reasons. We're going to stop Gaddafi from killing his own people, and we believe that. You've been deceived. You talk about a man killing his own people when you lie to the American people, saying that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. When you lie and then take innocent young men who come to serve their country and send them to die in Iraq, in Afghanistan, over lies. That's a murderer in the White House. Who will say it? I will, because I have a power behind me that is bringing America to judgment as we speak. Don't be afraid. I'm talking. Oh, brother, they're bombing. They said they were only going over there for humanitarian reasons. We're going to stop Gaddafi from killing his own people, and we believe that. You've been deceived. You talk about a man killing his own people when you lie to the American people, saying that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. When you lie and then take innocent young men who come to serve their country and send them to die in Iraq, in Afghanistan, over lies, that's a murderer in the White House. Who will say it? I will, because I have a power behind me that is bringing America to judgment as we speak. Don't be afraid. I'm talking. Oh, brother.
Okay, welcome back. Now, like he said, there's a murderer in the White House, right? How can they come and tell you Gaddafi was killing his own people? That was the reason they went in to kill Gaddafi. And we believe it. And most Africans believe it. And some Africans still believe it up to today. Who will still come and say Gaddafi was killing his own people, he was treating his own people. How about in America here? Is the American government treating American right? Is the American government treating Americans right? Is the justice system treating all Americans right? The justice system, right? But they don't talk about it. But America always says she have the best justice system in the world, right? But is the justice system treating all Americans right? Now, they said Gaddafi was killing his own people. And they see America, but will never question America when America go in to remove democratically African leaders. When America go in and overthrow democratically African leaders. When America train terrorists to go and kill African leaders. Oh yes, I'm not just saying it. America has said it. Said that they train terrorists. They train people to go remove African leaders. If you train people to go remove a leader for the people, that person that you train to go remove another person, that because you train that person specifically, that person is a terrorist. So if you train a terrorist to go remove another person from power only because of a self-interest, then you are also a terrorist. Because only a terrorist can train a terrorist to go against the people governments. Only a terrorist can train another terrorist. Only a terrorist can get weapons to another terrorist to go remove another government that is not in line with their policy. We can defund terrorists. Not only America or UK can defund terrorists or France can defund terrorists. Terrorist is one who train another person to go remove a government for the people of the people, and by the people, you are a terrorist. America have done that. America have confessed to it. That she been training Africans to go remove African leaders who are not in line with the American policy. That is a terrorist act. We don't question them. So let's go to Libya here. And then we will question America now.
Libyans, all signs point to yes, but first some context. You may have heard that it started with just some rain, but then a lot of rain as a fallout from a storm completely devastated civilian infrastructure, causing historic flooding in Libya. Now, the death toll now is still being contested in Libya. They're saying around 3,000 to 4,000, but the United Nations is saying triple or double that.
I've seen numbers over 20. Yeah.
15, 11, 15,000. Yeah. So
there was one coastal city that I think they said, I saw a report like a week ago or so that said there was like 5,000 people when the dam broke like were completely wiped out instantly. It's like up to 5,000 people.
Yes.
So why is Libya saying 3,000? I've seen, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing over 20,000, and it might even be way higher than that.
Right.
Maybe they're being conservative in that number, but
I'm not sure right now, especially considering that so many now countries are offering diplomatic aid. So it's unclear why the numbers would be underestimated, but we know it's in the thousands. Now, the different countries who have stepped up and said, yes, we will offer aid, and different associations, we found this one to be the most ironic. Here is a tweet from former President Barack Obama saying, if you're looking to help people impacted by the floods in Libya, check out these organizations providing relief. And then he links through.
Okay, so that was a message from the puppet, from a slave, Barack Obama. That was a message from him. But when he was going to Libya to kill Gaddafi, to destroy Libya, to destroy the Libyan system, the Libyan governmental system, he never tweeted asking. He never tweeted to ask African leaders. He never tweeted to ask African leaders, cautioning them that you guys should go to Libya and take care of the Libyan government, because the Libyan government is killing Libyan. But he took it into his own hand. He never even tweeted to ask the rest of the world leader or the rest of the world to get their opinion. He never asked people. But he went there and supported the insurgency, gave them weapons, along with the Africans on the African continent. And then when they killed Gaddafi, the Africans and the insurgency killed Gaddafi. The same African that their puppet, U.S. Secretary of Defense, asking to create more bases on the African continent. Like Julia Malema said, but we having American bases on the African continent. If America want to fight any African nation or any African government, they don't have to find a way to bring their army. They are already in Africa. They are already in your backyard. They can come at any time and kill you. And that is what happened to Gaddafi. Now, Obama have gone in along with his slave master or NATO and they destroy Libya. Now he's tweeting, if anybody out there want to help, let's you this, let's you that. Obama, America have the resources. Just how you created the resources and destroy Libya, you have the resources to build, because you told the Libyan you were going to build Libya even if Libya was destroyed, or even if Libya is destroyed. You told the Libyan you are going to give them better system that Gaddafi did not provide to them. You told the Libyan you are going to give them better system, better educational system, better healthcare system, better governmental system. You told the Libyan, in fact, Gaddafi was not sharing the resources of Libya properly or equally. You told the Libyan you were going to share the resources, you are going to distribute the resources of Libya equally with the Libyan. You say you're going to improve the Libyan economic system that Gaddafi did not create. That's why you killed Gaddafi and destroy Libya. Because you said you wanted a new Libya. So that you destroy Gaddafi Libya and you're going to bring in new America Libya. Now, why are you tweeting around, asking people to come and help? In one day, you were able to create sophisticated weapons to destroy Libya. But since 2011, you cannot build Libya. You cannot improve Libya. Libyans' blocks are on the hands of Washington, D.C. Libyan bloods are on the hands of Washington, D.C. Libyan bloods are on the sky, are over the sky of America. And Libya will cry. And the sky of America will be dark. Libya will cry. Africa will cry. Because their blood are on America, Washington, D.C. Their blood are sitting at the Capitol building of Washington, D.C. Their blood, their tears are sitting over the building of Washington, D.C.
Through the Obama Foundation. Now, I almost fell out of my chair here.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that Barack Obama would even dare to mention Libya, even type it out on a keyboard. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that if you really want to help Libya, this may be the worst way to funnel support through a foundation ran by Obama, because let's just remind ourselves exactly how Obama dealt with Libya while he was in office. Libya was a prosperous nation when Obama was in office. The biggest problem, as the West saw it, was that their leader, Muammar Gaddafi, was an Arab nationalist. Now, by that I mean that he wanted Arab countries to decide for themselves on their future and prosper from their own resources. That, if you're a Westerner, is a problem. Laughable, right? Of course, the Arab nations can't decide for themselves. We decide for them and prosper based on those resources. So to topple Gaddafi, the Obama administration first armed extremists with weapons. That's when Obama coined the term moderates, moderate rebels, like Al-Qaeda adjacent,
Right.
Al-Qaeda light, right? Junior varsity Al-Qaeda. So they came up with the word moderates. But that wasn't going fast enough. So the U.S. rallied NATO allies for an attack. Now, here's a little background to how that went, summarized beautifully in Scott Horton's book, Enough Already. And I'm just going to summarize this for you, because not only did Obama not ask Congress for authorization, he was not even in town. He was in Brazil when this operation took place. Here's what he said. He falsely claimed that Gaddafi had vowed to murder every civilian in Benghazi, and that his forces were already on their way to the job if the U.S. did not stop them on time. He claimed there were 700,000 real men, women, and children under the threat of extermination, and asked Americans to imagine the entire city of Charlotte, North Carolina being completely wiped out. The administration also claimed that Gaddafi was bombing peaceful protests and spread the ridiculous propaganda that Gaddafi had given all his soldiers Viagra so that they could sexually assault every woman and girl they found on their rampage to the east. These were all lies, but it was good enough because the bombs came raining down. Now, at the time when he was speaking in Brazil, he said, quote, "We are part of a broader coalition." And the Pentagon later said that other Arab League members were out to join forces to start bombing Libya too. Look at this headline from 2011. This basically says, you know, make no mistake, we're part of a broader coalition. And the Pentagon says, yeah, any minute now, other African and Middle Eastern nations are going to show up any minute now. We're a team. Well, by Arab forces, he meant the UK and France. So I guess they decide that you don't know geography and that you'd buy that those are part of the Arab League. They're not. Here's a little hint. Next time, you guys, if France and England are the only people on your side, that's a NATO attack. That's not an Arab League attack. And this attack came at a heavy toll on civilians. Look at this 2011 coverage of an F-15 that went down. The crew was safe, but the civilians who tried to help them were not. So this F-15 went down. We were told the crew was fine. And when local civilians met the plane and went to offer fruit juice to the crew because they were in distress from their crash, a military helicopter attacked them and opened fire.
Killed 6 civilians, including a young boy
who they thought would lose his leg. Now, I think it's generally agreed that Obama agreed to this war, even though the U.S. was already in 5 wars at the time, because Hillary Clinton and her staff of advisors wanted it. They thought that they could use it as a launch pad to her presidential run in 2018 as proof that she was really hard hitting on foreign policy. In fact, here she is bragging about the outcome before anyone really knew how catastrophic it was for the Libyan people.
So, I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed. Yes, we came We saw he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No, I'm sure it did.
I mean, can you imagine just laughing?
Yeah,
about-
that's odious, and it's odious that the journalist laughs with her.
Well, in the room full of people like that's hilarious. We
So
came, we
funny.
saw, we killed, we literally destabilized and destroyed a country, one of the most oil-rich, prosperous countries in the world, trying to be self-reliant. We fabricated a story and we killed him. And I'm just laughing about it in my pantsuit.
Yeah.
Unbelievably odious.
Yes, it is. But it soon became known that that was odious and that the NATO attack on Libya was such a war crime that she didn't dare to bring it up during her presidential campaign at all. Here's a question this is the question that haunts me, right? Because why didn't anyone else bring it up? Why were Republicans so focused on her email records when they could have just said, you launched a war that killed 1 million people, or, well, 1 million is not an exact, you perpetrated war crimes on an innocent country. How about we push you on that instead of your email? It makes me feel like both parties are part of the same coin, because when we're told that attacks on Hillary are sexist or attacks on Obama are racist, but we don't actually attack the fact that they perpetrated these war crimes, it's a missed opportunity for Republicans, and it's a distraction from Democrats. Could it be because they're all two sides of the same coin, all of them neocons who want a win on the backs of innocent people? Now, the UN estimates that close to 400,000 Libyans were displaced from the U.S. attacks on Libya, and it left them without the infrastructure to deal with such natural disasters as of this one. Journalist Chris Hedges said this about the U.S. NATO imperialism and how it costs so many lives, said,
all right, so as you listen to the narrative, right? And we're going to bring an article to also back it up. So when we say war criminal, Obama Clinton NATO just killed over 20,000 Libyans. This is where the justification is coming from. So if Gaddafi was still at life, this wouldn't have happened, because they was going to have system in place. They were going to have engineering, at work. Now, this flood that happened, it was not just, like say, a rain, and like how it happened in New York, and the place just got flooded, and so on and so on. No. Because there was the engineering were not there, or were not being paid to sustain or to maintain the dam. And the dam overflooded. The dam overflooded. So this disaster came in as a result of Washington, D.C. And that is why the blood of Libyan are on the hands of America. The blood of Libyan are floating over the Capitol building of Washington, D.C. So if you are working in Congress, just make sure when you are in a building day and night, the blood and tears of Libyan are flowing over that building. And the consequence is going to come. So Obama, when you are asking, when you are tweeting, if any organization out there that want to donate, that want to help Libyan, they should donate to your organization. You still got the guts to still make millions of dollars from the suffering of Libyan. Just how Hillary Clinton made millions of dollars from the suffering of the Haitian. Where she used an organization for entity to donate when the earthquake happened in Haiti. Now you are doing the same thing, because she was part of that problem even when the earthquake happened. Now you are also part of the problem by killing Gaddafi, and you are not yet satisfied. You stole the people oil. You are not yet satisfied, but you are asking for people to donate on the suffering of the people to your organization. How dare you do that? When your action have led to what the people are experiencing today, where is the democracy you promised the people? Washington, D.C. Where are the infrastructure you promised the people? Where are the systems you promised the people? The blood of Libyan is on the hands of America. The blood of Libyan are on the hands, are on Washington, D.C. The blood of Libyan are over the sky of America. And that dark cloud is to come one day. And you won't like it. If you live that time, it will be a horrible time. Because you shall live by your sin. You shall live to see your sin. The children of the sinner will bear the consequences. The sin of the father will be passed on to the next generation. Even if Obama dies, he's gone. The sin of Obama, the sin of Washington, D.C. will be passed on to the next generation. They will still bear the full weight. It is written.
He found a professor who said the fragmentation of the country's disaster management and disaster response mechanisms, as well as deteriorating infrastructure, exacerbated the enormity of the challenges. The political situation is a driver of risk. He said that most human casualties would have been avoided if they had a normally operating meteorological service, which would have issued warnings. And also the emergency management of this would have been able to carry out the evacuations of people. So, when the West perpetrates these regime change missions and then destroys entire countries, he points out at the bottom, we just then later forget they exist. Well, they exist. And now it's estimated that an extra 40,000 people who survived are displaced. And so, yes, there are relief efforts. Russia has sent a team of doctors and a mobile hospital. The U.S. has sent $11 million in aid. China has pledged 30 million yuan, but no apologies.
Now, U.S. have sent $11 million in aid. That $11 million, where did it come from? Since 2011, America have been stealing the oil of Libya. $11 million is nothing but pocket change. Since 2011. Do you know how many barrels of oil have been stolen by Washington, D.C.? That's a lot of barrels. And that's a lot of billions of dollars to send $11 million in aid. And that's how they have been doing on the African continent. And just like France taking $5 billion every year, or $500 billion every year from African nation. And then France come back and give 2 million, or 3 million to each nation. Out of the $500 billion every year. But come back and give 2 million, or 3 million to African nation in aid. And then they say they are helping Africa. Since 2011, you killed Gaddafi, you have been stealing the people oil. That's billions of dollars you have gotten from the oil in Libya. And you take $11 million and give it, and you say aid.
From any of the nations that kneecapped the country to begin with. European Union MP Mick Wallace put it this way for the lip service that the West is now paying to Libya. Like, are you actually serious? Now you care about the people of Libya after this NATO attack helped to destroy the country, destroy innocent lives. Imagine if the international law would actually hold these people accountable instead of just like, oh, well, you can send a few Band-Aids.
Did you know the real cause of your hair loss is not hereditary? It is actually due to your scalp environment.
So that's what we have for you on Libya tonight.
Let us know your thoughts on this. A war criminal Obama. Go ahead, Philip.
I just want to know how much we spent bombing Libya, like how much we spent to put them in this position, and then we send 11 million to fix it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
We bomb the infrastructure so that this flooding happens. I mean, that's the main part of the story, right? Is that all of our bombing destroyed the way to deal with flooding capacity.
Right.
We destroyed the infrastructure. We destroyed the dam infrastructure. We destroyed the sewage. We destroyed all of it through bombing. So of course they don't have the infrastructure to deal with, I mean, that's exactly why these people died, because there was no infrastructure in place, because we destroyed it all. And how much did we spend doing that? And now we're going to grab $11 million to throw at them to, like, here's some food and some clothing.
It's like,
Yeah, no,
we
what
feel so
Philip's
righteous,
point is, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say we feel so righteous. We come with a knife and a Band-Aid, and we're like, yeah, I know we stabbed you, but hey, here's a Band-Aid.
Right. Yeah. Our opportunity cost in actually destroying them in the first place, outweighs what it costs to fix it. We could have not have done that.
Yeah, we could have not. Could we just not do that? Yeah. And then Hillary Clinton was asked separately in an interview, like, about this mission and how, we knew that he was going to attack his people. We knew that this was about to happen. We knew all of these things were in place and were about to happen. And so we took action. We saved Libyan lives, she says. It's
yes,
unbelievable.
she said our partners in Europe were asking us for that. None of that's true.
Yeah.
None of that is true. So
she said, and when she said that soundbite, it was an unbelievable moment, because she says, we saved Libyan lives. We saved America. Not one American life was lost, and we saved Libyan lives at the same time. It's an unbelievable soundbite that she said. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are
Okay. So that's the Libya issue, right? We just watched a video, right? So let's see an article quick, we just dive into it and then get to the next point, because we are running, out of time. But again, so now you see the reason why we had this situation in Libya. It was not just because it rained, the place got flooded, and then horses, boom, on the water, and then people, thousands of people just died. No, it was because of the action of the United States and NATO, the action of criminal Obama, the action of criminal Hillary Clinton, the action of criminal Barack Obama, the action of criminal at the White House, the action of criminals in the United States Congress. And that is why the blood of Libyan, the blood of Africans will cry. The tears of Africans will cry. The blood of Africans is over the cloud of America. The tears and blood of Africans is over the Capitol building of America. We will preach it. We are not going to say, oh, hallelujah, Hosanna, God bless America. If we say God bless America, who are we saying? Who are we preaching against? If we say God bless America, then how about the Libyan? How about Africans that are dying, that are crying for hair of Africans, from hair of Africans? How about those people? How about the victim? If we say God bless the rapist, if we say God bless the criminal, how about the victim? No. The victim bloods are on the hands of America. The victim tears will cry and justice will come. The victim bloods will cry and justice will come. If it will come naturally, it will come naturally, but justice will come. The blood of African is over the cloud of America. The blood of African is over the White House of America. It's over the Capitol building, because that's where decision comes from. And then when African people decide and say, you know what, America is not a good partner to Africa, and then you say we hate America. Nobody hate America. America hates herself. When we're talking good about China, don't get angry. and say we pick China over America. When we say good about Russia, don't get angry and say we pick Russia over America. Too far, too long. We are bad patient with America and Europe. Too far, too long. We have been silent with America and Europe in humane behavior against Africans. Too far, too long. Oh, this is not what I want. All right, let me put it out here. All right, so this is how they call it, NBC News, right? So let's see something here. So as you can see right here, so that's the dam right here, right? So let's see something here. Okay. Let me see what I will start. All right. It says at least 11,000 are now believed to have died after terrain of water ripped through eastern Libya. So now you see they did not say the flood, right? After terrains of water, the dam, like the video said, Obama Clinton NATO destroyed the people infrastructure. Okay. No maintenance. But let's continue here. We're running out of time. Mary Air Decree, Secretary General of the Libyan Red Crescent, I think that's a Red Cross, that's what they call it or something, I don't know, but told the Associated Press by phone that a further 10,000, the 11,000, right, plus another further 10,000. So we are talking about 21,400 right there. Because first of all, it said at least 11,300. And now they are saying additional further 10,100. So that's like 24,000. Or 20,000 how they call it, 400, right? Now, has been reported. Further 10,100 have been reported missing in a run city of Dinar. So the 10,000 that is missing is not even added to the 11,000 that is already there, because the 11,000 is the confirmed body that they have seen. But further 10,000 is reported, but they have not seen those people, because these are people, the 11,100, let's say the 10,100 are people who are coming and saying, I have not seen my father. I have not seen my wife. I have not seen my 2 children or my 3 children. So those are people that are reporting but have not seen their people after weeks. So those are the number that have been counted, because some of them are still under the debris, right? Now, let's continue here. Earlier, city officials said the death toll could reach 20,000. So this is the handwork of Obama, the killers, Hillary Clinton, the killer, and NATO, the killers. A precise total of the missing number of people killed is incredibly difficult to comply, given the level of destruction and a chaotic political situation in the region. Again, the work of Obama, NATO, Clinton, the work of Criminal Obama, Clinton, NATO. And that is what's going on here. So it is difficult to actually carry on the tax based on political situation, based on the destruction of the people political system by Obama, NATO, Clinton. With Bali still washing up on the show and burial being held in mass grave. People have been buried in mass grave because of Obama action, because of Clinton action, Hillary Clinton action, because of NATO action, because of Washington, D.C. action. And these are the same people that are coming and telling Africans they are the greater partner. They are the people that Africans should partner with. But their behavior have caused tremendous disasters to us, to Africans. As rescuers search under water and under rubber, fear grew that rotting bodies could lead to a deadly outbreak of disease. So after the flood, there's going to be another kind of disease that will follow, destroy Libyan, that will follow, kill Libyan. Oh yes, America is still killing Libyan. America is still killing Africans because of their action. Africans are still dying. After the flood, another outbreak of cholera. Because imagine, people are drinking running water from where? And these bodies rotting, they're going to flow into those rivers. They're going to flow into those wells, and people are going to drink it. Obama is now going to carry safe drinking water from America to Libya. So more death toll was taken, more disaster are on the way to come because of the action of the United States and NATO. Libyan Africans are still dying. Judgment Day is coming. The sin of the father shall follow the children, and you will pay for it. The sin of Obama, the sin of Hillary Clinton will fall on their children. The sin of Washington, D.C. will fall on their descendants. Now, let me just read down here and then we go. The situation is very large and surprising for the city of Durham. We were not able to confront it with our capability that preceded the storm and the terrain. Mayor Abdul Marine told Sky News Arabia on Wednesday night. His office said that the number of those killed could hit 20,000, around a fifth of the city population, based on an estimate of those living in areas that were swept away. Look at the city. This is the handwork of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and NATO. These are the people that are telling us they are the good partner. These are the people that are telling us they are not criminals, but rather telling us Russia is the criminal, China is the criminal. The Wagner are the criminal. They are telling us the Russians are the criminal. But we cannot point anything of such in Africa to say it was the result of the action of China. It was a result, it was a result of the action of Russia. But there are many instances we can point to and say it was a result of the action of Washington, D.C., of America or NATO. Now, they say here, they could have issued the warning, and the emergency management forces would have been able, is a English is speaking here, who have been able to carry out the evacuation of the people. And we could have If Gaddafi was living, basically what they are saying here, if Gaddafi were alive, where systems were put in place, where management were being maintained, things were being maintained, they could have prevented this from happening. They could have prevented this from happening. If Gaddafi were alive, if the African democratic system run by Gaddafi, if he were alive, that democratic system, that system put in place could have maintained this, could have seen this, and those that die, they was not going to die. But because of the system America put in place, by destroying the people's system, it enabled them or unable them to see the reality. So that's what they were saying here. They could have, if Gaddafi were alive, they could have issued the warning if Gaddafi were alive. And they could have issued the emergency management forces. They could have put it in place if Gaddafi were alive. That is why when our African systems are working for Africans, we should not allow an outsider to come and intrude into our business. America is an outsider to the African continent. Europe is an outsider to the African continent. They are foreigners, they are aliens. And their intention of Africa is of no good, and that is a fact. Libya could have issued the warning and emergency management force if Gaddafi was alive. Libya could have been able to carry out the evacuation of the people if Gaddafi was alive. Libya could have avoided most of the human casualty if Gaddafi were alive. I take this out. So that's what happened in Libya, and it was caused by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Washington, D.C., and NATO. And now they cannot go to fix Libya, to help the people. But they are calling, Obama is calling around the world for people to even donate to him, and he continues to exploit the people. He's asking people to donate to his organization. Then after they donate to his, look at the sorrowful part. After 2011, you kill Gaddafi and destroy the country, and started stealing the people over, and started exploiting the people's resources. And you have made over billions of dollars in Libya, right? See, this is what Obama wants to do. So he's going to use his organization, and then people will come and donate to his organization. And then Obama will then wake up and go to Libya, that he's going to help the Libyan people. Now, Obama will then add that he's donating to Libya after people have donated to his organization. Then he will now use that money to make himself look good, that he's now going, or his organization have now donated or donate money to Libya to help the Libyan people. So he will not come acting as the angel. But Obama can never be an angel on the African continent, in any African nation. Obama will always be the devil till he dies. Let's go to the United Nations. You know, recently, from the African, or let's say the United Nations Summit, the Congolese president asked, or I don't want to say asked, I would say demanded that at the end of 2023, not 2024, but the journalist, instead of him saying 2023, but he said 2024 to 2023 when we are already in 2023. So we are heading to 2024. But the Congolese president said that at the end of 2023, the United Nations should leave DRC Congo because they have not lived up to their mission in DRC. Now, you see, whenever these Westerners are being told to leave the African continent, and let me be specific, okay? These Westerners who are exploitative, I'm not talking about tourists, okay? I'm not talking about tourists. I'm talking about white supremacy. Whenever they are being told to leave the African continent, they get so defensive. Whenever they are being told, we don't need your help, they get so defensive. Whenever they are being told, we don't need your aid, they get so defensive. But yet then, they will come and say, without them, Africa will not survive. Then when Africa tell them, leave us, we don't need your help, and let's see where we will not survive, they get defensive. Why will I get defensive? If indeed I feel without my help, you will not survive, and you say you don't need my help, why should I be defensive? I can take that help to another pricing if indeed my help is being genuine, right? But why should I be defensive? I can only be defensive if I had an alternative hidden motive that is benefiting me, which of course we know the United Nations have an alternative or hidden motive that they are exploiting the African continent. They are working for Western organizations. They are working for the imperialists, the colonizer. So let's watch this video and see their response.
The UN to withdraw its troops, saying it's failed to protect civilians. But what's the alternative? And will this pave the way for private armies to take over? This is Inside Story. Welcome to the program. I'm Mohammed Jamjoum. The United Nations peacekeeping mission has been around for more than 60 years. In that time, it's helped many countries transition from conflict to peace and stability. Its troops are deployed by member states and number in the tens of thousands. But there's a growing pushback against the Blue Helmets, especially in Africa, where some host nations say they've lost confidence in their mission. Democratic Republic of Congo is among those calling for their withdrawal or who have already sent them packing. Critics say peacekeeping needs reform, while others say it does important work despite its shortcomings. We'll get the thoughts of our guests in a moment, but first, this report from Fintan Monahan.
UN peacekeepers have been deployed to Democratic Republic of Congo for around a quarter of a century. A large part of their mandate is to protect civilians from armed groups. But now the Congolese president says they've failed in their mission and wants them gone.
Il est à déplorer.
It is to be deplored that the peacekeeping missions deployed for 25 years in the Democratic Republic of Congo have failed to cope with the rebellions and armed conflicts which are tearing apart the region, nor to protect the civilian population.
Many civilians in DRC feel the same way. Earlier this month, protesters demanded the peacekeepers go. They accused the UN of doing little to protect them. The Congolese army cleared the demonstrations. 43 people.
Look at this country. Look right there. The most richest nation in the world Look at how it is. Look at the scene of the most richest nation in the world in terms of resources, in terms of raw material, in terms of landmark, in terms of tourist attraction. You name the rest, right? But look at the setting. Look at the livelihood of the people. See how dusty it is. But this is a nation that is empowering the American economy, the European economy. Look at this country. So why should America, why should Europe, why should the United Nations get angry if the people say, we are tired with you here? If you hire an employee into your organization, to your company, to your business, you hire that person for a reason, to be productive, to produce more goods, to be efficient. But if that person is not productive, do you keep that person there and keep paying the person? Not that we are even paying the UN. Because somebody may say, but are you paying UN? We are not paying UN. But then, if we are not paying the United Nations, and we are telling the United Nations to leave, why should I get angry? If I am not paying you, and I say you should leave my nation, or my organization, or my company, why should you get angry? Will you not be happy to leave? Because you've been working there for 1 year, 2 years, and you have not getting paid. Will you still keep working? If I say you should leave, will you get angry? I don't think so. Maybe the only way you will get angry is because you've been exploiting me, you've been stealing my money. And that is what exactly the United Nations have been doing. Exploiting the people's resources, stealing the people's resources. That is why they are telling them to leave. They don't want to leave. And they say they don't want to leave. You say you are there to protect people, and the people said, no, leave. We will protect ourselves, and you get angry. It's like saying Africans are telling Europe, the European nation, the colonizer, the looter, to bring back their artifacts, right? To bring back their identity from their museum. But they are saying, no, how can we bring back these artifacts? You will not take good care of it. That is what exactly these colonizers are good at doing. No, African cannot protect themselves. If we leave, it's going to be more dangerous. No, we cannot bring back your artifact. If we bring back your artifact, it's going to be bad because you will not maintain them. But where did you get it from? Where did you take it there from? Did you not take it from Africa? They did not loot it from Africa. They did not exploit the African people. Where did you get it from? Did it come from the sky, or you got it from Africa? How did they manage to keep it, to preserve it? So how when the people tell you, if they tell you to leave, they say, no, we cannot leave because we leave, African will not manage themselves. With your presence, Africans are dying by the numbers. Do you know how many Togolese or Congolese, do you know how many Congolese have died? Millions upon millions with the presence of UN. Because we have this Western country supplying ammunition to the rebels, to the terrorists. If not even possible, the United Nations herself, they are supplying terrorists to create destabilization, to destabilize that nation. How can a war be somewhere but the resources are being flowing 24/7 out of the country?
Were killed. UN peacekeepers have also worn out their welcome elsewhere. They left Sudan's Darfur region in 2021 at the urging of the government. And Mali has become one of the latest countries to demand that they pull out. The UN has admitted to shortcomings, but says without peacekeepers, things would be much worse.
Growing divisions among member states, combined with the increased complexity of today's conflicts, poses a formidable challenge to peacekeeping and the broader task of maintaining peace and security. I encourage you to consider the alternative and to imagine how these situations would evolve if peacekeepers were not present to undertake these daily efforts.
In many places, mercenaries are filling the void, including those from Russia's Wagner Group. And as criticism of UN peacekeeping grows, critics say reforms are needed in order to overcome this crisis of confidence.
To peacekeeping daily efforts.
And as criticism of
Folks, look at DRC Congo right there. Look at that area. Do you see any place in America that look like this? Nations that are exploiting DRC Congo. Do you see any place in America? Because America is looting the people's resources. Do you see any setting in America where people live like this? Do you see any area in America like this where people live? Do you see any area in France like that where people live? Do you see any area in Asia like that where people live? Do you see any area in UK, in Europe like that where people live? How can the richest nation on planet Earth be so dirty and poor, be so isolated from the world? But the war is exploiting them, stealing their resources. Since 1884 Berlin Conference, when they divided Africa, DRC Congo have not seen peace, have not seen freedom, have not seen anything better. Look at a nation like this. You call that freedom? The people are already dead. So if they're asking the United Nations to leave, leave.
UN peacekeeping grows, critics say reforms are needed in order to overcome this crisis of confidence.
At the Sahel Institute and a former special advisor to the president of Mali. In London, Tara O'Connor, founder and executive director at Africa Risk Consulting. And in Geneva, Mukesh Kapila, a former UN resident and humanitarian coordinator for Sudan. A warm welcome to you all, and thanks so much for joining us today on Inside Story. Mukesh, let me start with you today. So DRC is set to begin discussions with UN authorities for an accelerated withdrawal of UN peacekeepers from December 2024 to December 2023. I want to get your impressions as far as if you think that is a realistic timeline.
Why not? There's a year, so I think they can do it. And I don't think it's going to make much difference to the situation on the ground if they were to leave some months early.
Mukesh, let me also ask you, UN peacekeeping missions in Africa are coming under a lot of criticism. You, of course, have experience as a UN peacekeeper in Sudan. Are UN peacekeeping missions actually working anymore?
They used to work when they were part of much more comprehensive operations, which made the peace, which kept the peace, and which built the peace. But in recent decades, they have become fragmented. They have not been as well resourced as they need to. And of course, we live in a much more quarrelsome world where the troops providing the peacekeepers and the nations funding them are at loggerheads. So they are more and more ineffective, and I think they should be put out of their misery.
Musa, UN peacekeepers have also worn out their welcome in other places. They've left Sudan's Darfur region in 2020 at the urging of the government. Mali is now the latest country to demand they pull out. I want to ask you, what do you think will happen in Mali once peacekeepers pull out?
Thank you so much. Since the decision to withdraw the mission from Mali, we're still having a lot of things going on. So as you mentioned, we have different realities according to countries and according to context also. The case of Mali, the UN mission was occupying the areas where the different stakeholders, the former rebel groups, now the signatory of the peace agreement and the government of Mali. So now occupying these barracks after the MINUSMA is creating a lot of problems in the field than reality what MINUSMA was bringing to the peace and the stability in the country.
Musa, let me also ask you, from your vantage point, what exactly is the alternative here? If peacekeepers continue to pull out, is that going to pave the way potentially for private armies just to take over more and more? I mean, who fills the void in this instance?
So now, before even the mission start withdrawing from Mali, the government, the Malian transition and the authorities start recruiting a lot of Malian military personnel, as you have seen in the past couple of months. But the problem itself is the question of the presence of the UN keeping missions in Mali. Because when you've seen since the beginning with the mandate of 2100, it started changing. And the objective also start changing. And finally, they just realized it is not necessary to have 15,000 people in the ground and not even starting what people expect from this mission. So filling the gap by themselves, by the transition and Malian army is the one point. Also the different partners, as they said, even some say Wagner groups and Malians say the Russian instructors is kind of filling this gap, these empty spaces letting by the missions.
Tara, I want to speak more specifically about the issue of UN peacekeepers and the DRC. The presence of the UN in DRC has become increasingly unpopular in recent years. Critics say that's due to a failure of UN peacekeepers to protect civilians from violence. Now, earlier this month, protesters demanded the peacekeepers go. They've accused the UN of doing little to protect them. The Congolese army cleared demonstrations. Dozens of people were killed. What is the current level of anger about the presence of UN peacekeepers in DRC, and how exactly did we get to this point?
Well, I think the levels of anger are pretty high, and which has actually led to this call for a rapid withdrawal. But I think we have to look at where we got to and how this came about. And I mean, if we look at the origins of the mission to Congo, it was at a very particular time when the country was actually imploding, and there was a significant risk that it would split apart. But definitely over the years that the UN has been there, its ability to actually deal and to improve the security for civilians has been severely impaired. It's also, the terrain is impossible. The region is largely, pretty much from a military point of view, largely ungovernable because of its vast size, because of the paucity of infrastructure, and also because of I think there is also a lack of willingness amongst a lack of commitment to really deal with the massive problems that the Eastern Congo faces. I mean, without actually ever having, when you haven't been there, as I have, it is extraordinary to think about the vast size of the area that the
All right, first, because we're running out of time, I'm just going to summarize some of the things they said in the video, because even the article that I brought for this video, to back it up, because of time, we will not be able to go through the article, because I have a video, because I said there was two best speeches that came out from the United Nations summit that they had, and the two best speeches came from Africa, and all came from those revolutionary African leaders. Other than that, all the other speeches, they were all trash. All right. So I want to show the best speech that came out. There was two. I already showed one from the beginning of the video. And the first one that stood up as the best. I want to show that before we leave. But let me just summarize some of the things they said in that video. All right. Now, one thing that they said in that video that stood up to my attention is this. One of the individuals, the interviewer, asked about the United Nations, right? that crime are being committed by UN, because they also talk about some of the things that are making Africans to go against the the UN, is because of some of the atrocity they commit within the United Nations when they are in those nations. All right. One thing they said was those United Nations workers, instead of being there for peace, but they are there to exploit people sexually. Instead of being there to help people, they are there, like if they bring food to you, before they give you food, they want to have sex with you. All right. They take a lot of advantage of people, all right, who they claim to be there to help. All right. And there have been a lot of numerous evidences that have come out or that came out against the United Nations. So one of the guy that they interviewed that said the United Nations should not be responsible. And this is why I have problem. All right. And I'm going to address it. He said the United Nations should not be responsible for those United Nations workers who go and commit crime in that country. That country should be the one to judge, to make the decision to punish the United Nations worker. And his claim was, reason for this is because the United Nations does not have court. The United Nations is a war body, war governing body, war army, war police, war soldier. But he said the United Nations does not have a court system to judge or to prosecute those workers. So if they commit crime in any nation, that nation should be the one to judge or to carry on the prosecution, right? But listen to this. The United Nations Army or the United Nations by itself, they are in nation that they call third world country that do not have the sophisticated system or power to judge the war army. For example, who in DRC Congo, does DRC Congo have a court system to judge the United Nations controlled by the United States? We know if we say any nation want to go against the United Nations, you are going against the United States. And you know what coming after you. So for that idiot, the video is long. That's why I didn't show you. But for that idiot to sit down there or sat down there and say the United Nations should not be responsible, but the nation to where the crime have been committed, that nation judiciary system is responsible. Who is working for the United Nations? Is that person working for that nation, or they are working for the United States or the United Nations? Who jurisdiction are they on? Who employ them? Who employed them in our country? Is it our country or the United Nations? But this is how the United Nations have gone with numerous cases free. And that's how they take advantage of people. They loot people, they exploit people, they rape people. Because they have been, like I said, I don't have time for us to go through the articles. But these are the reasons. So for that individual to sit down and say that nation should be held responsible to carry on to hold a judiciary system to judge the worker of the United Nations. Now, if you said that, what is the difference? Because if the people are taking responsibility, okay, so if they do it, then that means they are taking the United Nations to court. If the nation do that, it means they are taking the United Nations to court. So if that's the case, if that was his premise, Then, if you say the people should decide to judge the United Nations, so what is the difference if the people decide that the United Nations should leave? If you say the people should take responsibility, what is the difference if the people take responsibility and say, you know what? Instead of you being here, creating, how they call it, problems, raping our girls, raping our women, okay, funding a terrorist, and then you expect us to take decision to go against the United Nations or to take the United Nations to court in our own system when we don't have a system to uphold or to hold the United Nations responsible for a crime when we don't have the system. The best thing is for the United Nations to leave, and then you get angry. But you are not angry by telling us if any United Nations worker commit a crime in that country, you say we should be responsible to take matter into our hand, right, to judge that worker. Now we are saying we don't want it to go to that length of time or to that distance. Just leave our country and go. Period. And you have problem. That's where I have issues. We don't want to go there by costuming the United Nations Army or taking it to a nation court that does not have a system, that is not sophisticated. So the best thing is the citizens are saying, leave the country, pack your satokas and leave. And they can defend themselves. Because there have been numerous, like what they did to Haiti, there have been numerous instances or cases that are against the UN, the United Nations in Haiti, of raping girls, underage teenage girls. United Nations workers raping them, and they did nothing. In Africa, numerous evidence, reporters have come of it, independent reporters, against the United Nations. But the United Nations did nothing or have done nothing towards it. How can a war peace organization be so brutal and inhumane? How can you become the #1 criminals? That is why you don't want to have a court system to judge workers. How can you be the war police as you claim or the war army as you claim, but you do not have a court system? Because you know your behavior into those nations. In DRC Congo, one of the United Nations truck had an accident, and the mineral resources in that truck was worth billions of dollars. That alone, you should have been taken to court if you create a court system for economic corruptions, political corruption. And the defense secretary of the United States come and stand and open his slavery mouth to talk about proxy war in Africa and then want to link it to Russia. Proxy war in Africa, Russia have never had any hand in proxy war in Africa. Russia is the one that gave military ammunition helicopter to the Malian government to fight the terrorists. Since when have the United States ever gave helicopter to any African army to go fight terrorists? Let me see that one nation. Since when have UK or Europe gave helicopter, army ammunition? Because Russia gave not only one, not only two, or not three helicopter to Mali, just one nation. How many nations in Africa that America have given helicopter, army ammunition, air defense to go fight terrorists? How many nations that UK, EU have given air defense equipment to go fight terrorists? Then how can you come and tell us Russia is the one creating a proxy war when you are the one supporting a terrorist? When you are the one training people specifically to go remove African leaders? and you want to talk about proxy war in Africa when you are the father and the mother of proxy war in Africa. Well, on the other hand, Russia is the one providing support against proxy war. Who provided support for apartheid? Who provided support against apartheid? America was for apartheid. Russia was against apartheid. America supported the army apartheid by giving army ammunition and supply money capital to the apartheid government to ill-treat Africans, to kill Africans, to destroy Africans. While Russia gave army ammunition supply to Africans to fight against apartheid. Then how can you tell us Russia is the criminal when we know the criminal? Let's go to the best video of the United Nations Summit and we'll call it for a day.
Finally, somebody has said it. Yes, finally, Ibrahim Traore, the captain leader of Burkina Faso, has said it to their face. Yes, you know, where the UN summit was going on, Ibrahim Traore sent his minister, his economic minister, while he went to the farm because he's actually doing a lot of projects, a lot of mega projects in Burkina Faso. So according to his speech, he said it to their face that the Western leaders or envoys that are in Africa are not here for peacemaking. They are not keeping any peace in Africa. They are here to steal natural resources here in Africa. Now, watch this video and listen to what he said.
On behalf of His Excellency Captain Ibrahim Traore, President of the Transition Head of State, I convey to you the warm greetings of the people and government of Burkina Faso. On behalf of the Burkinabe people, I pay a humble tribute to the memory of those Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso and others. These leaders were largely executed violently. Others were assassinated. They died in prisons or from poisoning. Their only crime in each case was embodying the dreams, ambitions, and hopes of the peoples that have been killed, raped, trampled, and pillaged. Mr. President, my presence at this august podium before the UN on behalf of Burkina Faso, country of upstanding men, is not to beat my breast in lamentation. And I am not here either to make a flowery speech. I was sent here to tell you that the lies of states, diplomatic hypocrisy, the thirst for power, the frenetic quest for profit, the diabolical spirit of domination, exploitation of man by man, these are the true wounds that poison our coexistence and drive all societies toward perdition, including our organization, the UN. We are living in an upside-down world. Bodies litter the beaches where billionaires bask. Facts. The UN Security Council is paralyzed. The UN must shoulder its responsibilities in a world of solidarity and justice as laid out in the UN Charter. And this requires it to have the courage to fight inequality. End quote. The quintessence of these statements by these four august personages clearly shows that inequality throughout the world is deliberate. Otherwise, with a modicum of courage and political will, we would be able, if not to eradicate them, at least to minimize them. Indeed, every year we hear so many speeches as well as promises and commitments, but the proof of dissonance between rhetoric and facts on these issues relating to principles in the UN Charter, including justice, equality, dignity, integrity, self-determination, the sovereignty of states, the inviolability of territory, and respect for international law. The proof of this dissonance lies in what's happening in Libya, in the Sahel, especially in Niger, and the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. First of all, in Libya, after the catastrophic flooding, thousands of people lost their lives. To assuage our consciences, every nation rushed to provide their condolences and solidarity. This was, of course, to give the impression that we're living in a society and that we defend these values. Intellectual honesty requires, and the history of our conscience tells us, that we ought to sincerely apologize to the people, the Libyan people, for collectively and individually being complicit, whether through passiveness or active complicity, for supporting those butchers who caused the first man-made disaster in Libya. It was this disaster that brought Libya to its knees by looting it and by killing its guide before the flooding plunged it into further sorrow. And unfortunately, this human disaster was led by the UN under Resolution 1970, as well as the guilty silence and the complicity of ECOWAS and the African Union. This macabre intervention, with Nicolas Sarkozy's France spearheading the effort, killed the Libyan guide Colonel Muammar Gaddafi on October 20th, 2011. If our condolences to the Libyan people had the slightest bit of common sense and were not hypocritical, then this murderous diplomacy would never have taken place. And now Niger is en route to becoming a second Libya. Next, international relations are tainted by great diplomatic diplomacy with no conscience or morals, dignity or integrity, justice nor peace. And this is proven because there is a clear hunger for devouring prey. Today, we unfortunately must see that, contrary to the good faith statements made at this UN podium, which call for respect for the UN Charter and international law, leaders representing the people of Niger, this brotherly people, were essentially forbidden from accessing the UN headquarters. Burkina Faso strongly condemns this underhanded maneuver, which seems to belong to the practices of the past. And this can only be explained by a loss of essential values needed for any harmonious life in society. The UN should never be used as an instrument in the hands of any country. Pan-Africanist leaders who fought for African unity, our grandparents who fell in dignity, shot by the colonialists, these great sons of Africa sacrificed themselves for the honor of their continent, who fought fiercely against the slave trade and neocolonialism. All of them have had their eternal rest disturbed when they heard that a handful of exiles, African exiles, are holding Niger hostage. Yes, dear African continent, just a handful of your children have decided to humiliate you through the shameless lies of a state, starting with Niger. And therefore, I issue a sincere and solemn appeal to the people of Senegal, Benin, Niger, Ghana, Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea-Bissau, and all the people of Africa to stand up in fraternity and solidarity in Africa in order to prevent the imperialists from setting fire to Niger as they did in Libya. President, Secretary General, distinguished participants, at this podium in the UN and before the entire world, I insist that ECOWAS, the African Union, and the UN must become true organizations of peoples instead of structures used by a minority of heads of state. They cannot be used and instrumentalized to destabilize brotherly countries by killing their leaders. This is the only way the UN Charter and international law could have any meaning. And lastly, speaking of the UN Charter and international law, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is underway and is even desired by certain powers. And several Western countries, especially the US and the European Union, have provided all forms of military support to this conflict. The Ukrainian civilian population are used as volunteers, and some of them are piloting tanks. They were traded as patriots in this war. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are dealing with a war that was imposed upon them by imperialism under the pretext of terrorists. And these are sowing terror and destruction, despite the UN Charter with its principles of equality, justice on one hand, and on the other hand, international law, which has been often cited here at the UN. There is a massive chasm in the treatment of these different issues. For example, take Burkina Faso. Civilian populations are dealing with lethal incursions, monstrous attacks by terrorists, and they've decided to mobilize alongside the defense and security forces. These populations have been trained by the FDS, and they are called volunteers for the defense of the homeland. In Burkina Faso, we have 58,000 such volunteers, of which 42,000 are communal volunteers and 16,000 are national volunteers, and they are fighting alongside the defense and security forces, the FDS, and they were trained and are guided by them. They only act under the orders and the oversight of the FDS in accordance with regulations to protect their lives and their property. These are the patriots that certain heads of state of ECOWAS and the African Union, exploited by capitalist imperialist forces, are trying to describe to the international community as militias, and that is the shameless state-sponsored lie. Mr. President, if the international community were honest and sincere in its commitment to fight terrorism, it would have no problem with civilian populations training themselves to defend themselves. There is a clear lack of honesty in the international community. Here are a few examples. First of all, when Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and other countries organized along their common borders by pooling their forces to combat terrorism, France came out of nowhere to impose its instrument, that is G5 Sahel. Today, ECOWAS suddenly has established an intervention force to reestablish democracies. It announced a contribution of $2 billion. But from the creation of this G5 Sahel until its dissolution, ECOWAS was only able to allocate $25 million. So can they be really said to take seriously the defense of human lives as laid out in the Declaration of Human Rights and Peoples? Secondly, Burkina Faso is experiencing cynical sanctions after the coup d'etat of September 30th, 2022. This so-called international community led by France, which just uses its lackeys in Africa, tried to nominate a prime minister in Burkina Faso, but in vain. Then they tried to impose various ministers and strategic posts within the government of my country, again in vain. And lastly, they negotiated the continuing relations so that Captain Ibrahim Traoré would implement their will. This was their prerequisite for his being in power. But he refused this in the name of the higher interest of his people. And as a result, an avalanche of repressive measures, threats, and attempted coups d'etats was unleashed upon him. These are immoral maneuvers concocted in criminal laboratories. And unfortunately, all of these macabre maneuvers were led by puppet leaders of African countries. And that's the case for this famous Accra initiative. Even that was not able to last for long. Thirdly, in addition to cutting off aid and other problems with our FDS, we are seeing a blockade on material equipment for us, again, led by France. For example, for the important air defense equipment needed to control and defend our territory. We had a contract with Brazil, and the weapons license was supposed to come from Belgium, and the navigation and firing system, as well as the video cameras, was supposed to come from the US, and then motor was supposed to come, an engine was supposed to come from Canada. But this equipment was all cynically blocked. You talk about defending human rights at the UN, so therefore I ask you to deliver to us our weapons that we need to defend and protect our peoples who are being killed. In any case, I am solemnly informing you of this. And if nothing is done, history will hold you responsible for failing to assist people in danger. Distinguished Secretary General and President of the General Assembly, members of the international community. The international community has failed to assist states attacked by terrorism. There's been international hypocrisy, and certain powers dominate the UN. They are complicit in pillaging Africa. Shouldn't this international community be brought before the International Criminal Court for all this? Our security must be assured by us ourselves, first and foremost, not by anyone else. When it comes to the Wagner presence in Burkina Faso, which has been covered by a puppet press controlled by France, I would respond that it's our brave FDS that is defending our homeland.
Consequently, from this high tribune of the United Nations that magnifies the sacrifice of my country on behalf of national interest, I here applaud the memory of all those who fell due to weapons, magnifying the courage and integrity of those who are still alive, inexorably sacrificing for victory for our people and safeguarding our country. Rather than stopping the human bloodshed, it's fallacious accusations that have occurred and lies wrapped in hypocritical diplomacy and veiled threats to indicate to our partners that they need how we need to behave ourselves. And we say no. On behalf of the United Nations Charter itself and international law that you raise to defend yourselves, and here in this tribune, the African peoples and those of the Sahel, and specifically, are resolutely committed to fully assuming their full emancipation for true social progress. And thus, Burkina Faso will work with its partners that it wants to work with in a sovereign manner and buy from who it wants and defend how it wants. The fact that a country called Russia, Iran, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Cuba, Nicaragua, North Korea, or Burkina Faso can buy and sell their goods freely without any intermediary, without any authorization from anyone, no matter what happens. Mr. President and Secretary General, let's talk about hypocrisy. And let's talk about state lies in this issue of fighting terrorism, generally speaking, in the Sahel specifically. Perhaps you don't ignore what I'm about to say, but let me lay out my arguments. First, in the Sahel, we have some 10,000 soldiers, armed soldiers that are foreign soldiers. Most of them are French soldiers, but there are also American soldiers, Germans, Italian, etc. They have weapons. They have flying equipment, they have surveillance equipment, which is the most sophisticated in the world. And yet they don't see the hundreds of terrorists that are moving around in order to serve death and desolation, often with unimaginable weapons at their side. In Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, there is no factory to manufacture weapons nor munitions. So who is recruiting these terrorists? Who is training them? Who is providing them with weapons? Who feeds them and with what means? Do you believe in this philanthropy on behalf of whom the Westerners have sent their armies to the Sahel to die for our beautiful blue eyes? Well, if you believe that, then what justifies the diplomatic irritation and other gesticulation of France when we told them to skedaddle with their armies? The real reason is really about the resources that are underground in the Sahel. Indeed, the National French Assembly voted and enacted Law 057 of 10 January of 1957, which then appeared in the official journal of the French Republic of January 1957, which led to the creation of the Common Organization of the Saharian Region, the OCRS, which brought together the parties of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mauritania, Algeria. etc. This zone is unparalleled in the world in terms of wealth underground. For example, the water table, the most significant water take in the world, goes from Mauritania to Somalia and goes through Mali, Algeria, Libya, Niger, etc. The newspaper Le Monde in July 1957 put forth the figure of 6 to 7 million tons of oil found below our soil, potentially in the Sahara, in addition to the natural resources that we also have, such as uranium, gold, cobalt, zinc, diamonds, lithium, copper, etc. You, the Westerners, you so much love the Sahel people, so much that you bring your military and your armies to die in the name of democracy, in the name of freedom and human rights and peace. Then why is it that an African continent with some 1.3 billion people and the second largest continent of the world in terms of people, with a number that the interpreter cannot figure out of the number of square kilometers, and 54 states, has no permanent seat within the Security Council? Such a huge continent with so many people and no right of veto. How do you justify that? Does that not go beyond a state crime? Is it not beyond a crime of the UN that is happening? So let's stop with the diplomatic lying, the gross lies, which basically involves imperialist powers coming to the Sahel to defend quote unquote democracy and human rights. And let's talk about human rights for a minute. Let's remind ourselves here of the first charter in the world on the issue of human rights was the Kurokan Fuga in Mali in 1236. That was the first document that addressed that. And let's go to the second issue, which is Africa does not like to compare deaths. That would be ill-mannered on our part to do so. So I will respectfully bow to the memory of all nationalities of people who lost their lives in Africa and in the Sahel specifically. But if we look at the hazards that are involved and we look at the unfortunate and condescending attitude of the president of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, often who verges on the ridiculous while glorifying a hypothetical condescension vis-a-vis African people. And I have to impose on myself here the duty of giving him a little lesson on history, on his own history, because this is why your classrooms are full of children that are learning their lessons well and growing up. In other words, turn to this story at the risk of losing the real story forever. But let me clarify here that no African people is opposed to the French people. There's no anti-French sentiment in Africa, nor is there any issue with our legendary hospitality and our love of our neighbors. Rather, the African people refuse the condescendence, the arrogance, the insolence, the sufficiency, the paternal attitude, the looting of our resources, and organized crime. That's our problem. Indeed, for your memory, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, first, let me remind you here that through the BBC in England on the 14th of June, 1940, an appeal was launched by your own grandfather, General de Gaulle, to Africa to come and save France from the grip of the Nazis. Let me remind you, 17,000 Malians died during the two world wars. This is a blood debt that France has hidden. And if we look at the book of Bakary Kamian, the professor of the University of Sorbonne in France, says, and in that same document, in page 345, there's a table that looks at the war and the loss of lives in the two wars. People from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, over 82,000 fallen soldiers from those countries in those wars, and over 154,000 soldiers. And this is from a French source, a book by Henri Léger, Report on the End of the AOF Mission from 1950. It was published. And this is in the archives of Senegal. Please see Annex 5. Now, moving on to the next argument, the 17th November 1986, François Mitterrand, the French president at the time, in response to Captain Sankara said, and I quote, "Africa was looted." And here I'm talking about raw materials. I should have talked about people. For centuries, we exploited you at a human level. We stole your men, your women, your children. We used you. I understand your refusal. I understand your revolt, and I approve of your fight. You are right to refuse to be a sacrificed continent. The time has come for you to develop your own economies based on
All right, so it was too long, so we kind of shortened it up. But that was the best speech from the United Nations Summit. And the second best came from the President of the Republic of Guinea, Conakry. That was the second best speech from the United Nations Summit. And the first best speech from the United Nations Summit came from the representative of Burkina Faso, who just spoke. Those are the two best speeches that came from the United Nations Summit, and the two best speeches came from Africa, from our true African liberator. Like I said, the United States speech, Joe Biden's speech was a trash. All right, his speech was trash. All right, even the speech of the president of Ghana was also a trash. Just because he spoke about reparation, that doesn't mean he's actually for it. All right. Since when have he been talking about reparation? Since when have he, unite African? All right. So actually, did he speak to the African diaspora? These are the things we should be looking at. I mean, so we know it's fake. Did Nana Akufo-Addo speak to the African diaspora about reparation? Did he sit with permanent African diaspora regarding this reparation issue? So we are revolutionary. When people speak, we digest it and see. We don't just follow. We are not a follower. We are not a follower. Did Nana Akufo-Addo sit with the African diaspora to discuss this reparation before going to the UN? Who sent him there to go speak about reparation? Did he get the African diaspora side? Did he sit with them to create a memo of what to say? Were he representing both the African diaspora and the African on the African continent? Did he sit with both people on the African continent and the African diaspora to sit and discuss this reparation issue? Did he go as a Pan-Africanist? Did he go as AU? Even though we know AU is not even an organization for African people. AU represent the United States and Europe. AU represent the West. That is why we don't respect any African leader who want to talk about AU. We don't respect any African leader who want to talk about ECOWAS. Those two entities are organizations run by the United States and Europe. So how did Nana Akufo-Addo get out there? How did he get there to speak about reparation? Because reparation is not an individual thing. That is why before Malcolm X talked about reparation, before he could go to the United States, to the United Nations, he went to Africa. He went to Africa and then came back and met with the African diaspora and said, I cannot do it by myself. One person cannot do it. We have to unite and take our consent to the United Nations. So when we are speaking, we are also listening to the voices of our forefathers. And that's how we are able to understand things when people speak. Because we listen to the voices of our forefathers. We don't listen to how they call it people who don't understand, when they quote according to Thomas Jefferson. How can you quote from Thomas Jefferson? How can you quote from James Monroe? How can you quote from Madison? Those people, how can you quote from them? You will lack vision, you will not see. Because we consult our forefather. That's how we are able to see beyond. That's how we are able to understand beyond. That's how we are able to reason and not just Fado. Who did Nana Akufo sit with to discuss reparation? Did he guard the African diaspora? Or he just went out there? I already said it. He's paving the way for his successor for the 2024 presidential election in Ghana. Because he knows most African diasporas have greatly migrated to Ghana. So he knows what he's doing. He's playing the game. But all I can say is, our Africans that have left from here and went to Ghana, do not fall for it. It's a trap. This is today's message. I will see you Saturday, and I will see you Sunday. Peace.